All right. Tuesday is here. Didn't go live on a Monday because it was the day after Christmas, and we have got a lot of bowl prep to talk about this evening. I'm joined by Brandon Hill and Preston. Brandon, let the people know first off where they can find all your great content. First time on the live stream, so let the people know who you are, where your content is, and a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Brandon. I have a podcast. It's called the House Divided Podcast. That's how you can find us if you search it on YouTube. We're a smaller channel right now, but we are looking to help make that grow. I reside right here in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm literally 2 minutes from the stadium, so I'm a big time Sooner fan as well. I've asked Ty, if I could come on his show, and thank you again, Ty, for letting me come onto your show. Everything else, I watch Preston PG show all the time religiously. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, and it's an honor to get on here with you guys. My partner, his name is Corey. He's going to be joining us here in a little bit. He's got the link on our Twitter in the DM from Utah, so he will be hopping on. But we are a two-man show. We kind of talk a little bit. We don't just talk college football. We do NFL. We do NBA. We do all that kind of stuff. College basketball. I mean, we kind of try to touch all of the bases. So as far as that goes.
Heck yeah, man. Glad you're here. Glad to
Heck
have you.
yeah.
Looking forward for your buddy to be here. PG, how you doing, man? What do the people need to know that you've put out here recently? Because you've put out some big
I've put out
videos.
I've put out some content. I've got a couple videos coming out. I'll have one coming out late tonight, and I'm pushing out the other one to tomorrow. But I'm doing a early 2024 review on the Oklahoma recruiting class. I'm going to do one for Colorado tomorrow. Trying to button up a couple things on that one, and then we're going to do one for Florida and a couple other schools. Get a little too early on those 2024 as we start to head into that season. But listen, I'm just excited to see some of these early enrollees, early signees for Oklahoma on the field at bowl practice in Orlando, seeing some of them in the Sooner uniforms. So that's always exciting to me. But listen, I'm a regular on the show, so you guys know where to find me at on YouTube, PG Show, Twitter. You guys can find me at the PG Show _.
Absolutely, man. And I think there's no better place for us to start. Chicken, thank you for the $5. And you know what? I keep the Bill O'Brien fun. Chicken, if you weren't a regular, I'd have half a mind to put you in timeout. But I like you. You're not getting a running back. You're surely not getting a running back with that comment. But thank you for the $5. Thank you for joining us this evening, man. We're looking to have a lot of fun. But I think the place to start, you hit it, PG, Oklahoma versus Florida State, because this is really interesting. Unfortunately, one of the only programs I don't have just a trove of all 22 film on is Florida State. So I've had to go back and, do it the old-fashioned way. I'm really interested in this game for y'all. I'm going to let y'all take the floor. I want to hear what y'all are thinking on this, where you think you have some advantageous matchups, where you're worried, because this is going to be a game I think the people are really interested in. Brandon, I'll start with you. What are you thinking for this Oklahoma-Florida State matchup?
One thing I'm thinking is I'm happy for Eric Gray. I'm glad he went to the NFL. I'm a little sad that we don't have Eric Gray in the backfield, although that does give an opportunity for the youngin, Javante Barnes, to kind of take the lead back role. Last I heard, Marcus Major is still in a boot, so we might also get to see Gavin Sawchuk in this game as well, which is very, very exciting. Receivers, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure we have Farouk is going to be there. Mims is going to be there. Drake Stoops, who just announced he's actually coming back next year. So I'm super excited about that as well. I think that's big. I'm worried about our offensive line, though, missing both of our tackles. And PG, you can probably speak on this better than I can. Who are we going to get to replace those tackle positions? Because losing Wanye Morris and Antoine Harrison against a pretty good Florida State defense this year under Norvell is going to be interesting on what we're going to do there. Have you heard anything on that?
Yeah, so obviously you're going to have a guy like Robert Congle probably play a bigger role in this game. You're going to have a guy in Tyler Guyton, obviously probably moving into his starting role permanently.
That's fair.
But we really get to see what Jacob Sexton and Jake Taylor are going to be made out of. And remember, the important thing about the bowl games this year is the NCAA moved the redshirt rule effective for the bowl games only. So they could have played 4 games in the regular season, sat out for the rest of the regular season, and now in the bowl games, they're going to get legitimate minutes. And this is where you're probably going to see almost all of the 2022 offensive and defensive guys in this game. Because let's be honest, Venables knows the likely odds that Oklahoma can go out here and win this game, and it's not good. But this is a great opportunity to put out guys like Rowe, who has not really seen the field. You could put out Gentry Williams almost the whole game. Let him see some playing time. Give your seniors some love maybe in the first quarter, first half, but start to transition them out and let in the new era of Oklahoma football get in there and get some genuine reps. But it gives Bill Beatonbow a perfect opportunity to know, are Jacob Sexton and Jake Taylor ready to take the next step next year? Or are we potentially going to have to go hit that portal extra hard, even though we have Caden Green coming in who potentially could play on the left side next year? I think he's just that good. You don't really want to put a true freshman in on the
not if you can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, Texas did it. And Texas, I mean, don't get me wrong, Texas' offensive line this year was incredible. Right. But you also saw at times where Texas's offensive line had issues because they were playing true freshmen.
You want to know something crazy about that Texas offensive line as well? So if you look at how they graded, they actually grade better in pass protection than they do run blocking, which is absolutely like that's completely counter to all logic when you're talking about a new offensive line. It's easier to run block. You're firing at somebody as opposed to catching somebody. So for the fact that that young offensive line was that good at pass blocking, PG, you hit the nail on the head. Texas did it. But they also had the number 1 offensive lineman in the nation last year, the number 2 offensive line. Like, they signed an incredible offensive line class. I like Caden Green like you do, man, but I do tend to agree. You don't want to put all your eggs in the basket of a true freshman at a tackle position, not if you can help it.
Yeah, which I know personally just from talking to him, he has already been working on his body. And then now he's getting the training plans. So literally before he was getting there, he was starting training plans, starting meal plans. Like, this man's ready to go to work, and he's going to try to compete in the spring for that starting job. And Caden Green, I mean, the man could have been a 5-star. I just think being at Lee's Summit, I think kind of hurt him a little bit.
Should have been.
Yeah, I think he probably should have been a 5-star to start the year.
Absolutely. I mean, he moved up those rankings pretty high, though. If I'm not mistaken, when he committed to OU, he was around the 200 range, if I'm not mistaken. And he moved up those rankings pretty quickly, you know what I mean, to where he's one of the better tackles in the recruiting cycle. He's, of course, not the best, but he's one of them. And I do agree with you on that, PG. I think he could be one of those guys that could. I'm interested. I mean, I've heard guard, everything else for him. Savion Burt, where's he at? Because he's definitely big enough to play the tackle position. You know what I mean? So that one would be interesting to me.
That's certainly one to watch. And, you know, I think it's notable, and I think this is a point that I'm glad we're having the discussion on, because if we look at Florida State, they come in at 13th in total defense.
Right.
They have 34 sacks on the year. And the thing that worries me isn't just the loss of the 2 tackles. We're also, Brandon, you made the point, and I think it's a great point. You don't have Eric Gray.
Right.
And Gray, he's not your hammer back. He is your finesse back. And he can make something out of nothing. Those finesse backs, it's like trying to tackle smoke. You can have a guy get pressure and he'll just put on the brakes and shoot into a different gap and is gone. That's why I'm very interested in Sawchuk. I think Sawchuk's mobility could help alleviate some of the pressure if you're able to get him on some quick screens, right? Like, if you know going into this game as Oklahoma, as Jeff Levy, that they might have an advantage on this front, what do? You get them to be over aggressive on the front so that way they start taking back. They start taking some of the rush back. I think there's ways where Oklahoma could affect the rush, but it's just, how are you going to be able to overcome all of this? When we look at the news cycle, guys, Florida State doesn't expect many, if any, significant guys to sit out. And we can't say
they're not expecting any significant guys sitting out. And they've had guys hit the portal, but they're all guys that are pretty ineffective to what they have been able to do. You know, the thing that really scares me about Florida State in this game is we know that all 3 of their running backs any day can go hit 100 yards, because we've seen all 3 of their running backs do it in one game. All 3 of them had a 100-yard game in one game. And so that's kind of what scares me is This Oklahoma defense, I don't think the interior defensive line is that bad. The edge rush, the edge part of this line has been 100% flat out disappointing this year. But also the linebacker play has been off. My question is, are we going to see a lot, because with Deshaun White and all them heading out, I'm sure they're going to give Deshaun White some love, but are we going to see Kanak, Kip Lewis, and Kobe McKenzie in this game? And if they do, and if they are able to show out and play well and kind of help in that run game a little bit, what's that going to look like? You're going to see a lot more R. Mason Thomas in this game, which I'm excited to see that.
Right.
But, the other thing is I think it's important that Oklahoma on the defensive line, Ethan Downs has to play well. Reggie Grimes has got to be able to get back there. Yeah, Florida State they scare me with what they can do to us.
Right.
Well, my man, we're sitting here talking Oklahoma, Florida State. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could join us. And, I think there's no better time for you to jump in here. Oklahoma takes on Florida State. I'm really interested. The main reason I'm interested is Oklahoma has the 2 starting tackles out. Eric Gray's out. That's a lot for your offense to try and overcome. We look at the other side of the aisle, Florida State not expecting anybody to come out of here. So when you look at this game, man, what are your expectations for Oklahoma, Florida State this week?
Is that on you or is it me?
No, that's you. That's you, Corey.
Oh,
that's you. That's
wow.
you. Yeah.
Right in the fire, man.
Oh, man, I like it. Man, honestly, I expect a better tackling team. Offensively, I really don't know what to expect. I like to see some of the younger backs. Having both of your tackles out of me, having been a former offensive tackle, I know how hard it is on offenses when you have 2 lesser tackles. So I'm not expecting much edge run stuff like that. Maybe they throw some traps, some inside zone stuff where they get between the tackles. And it's really going to be on Levy, man. I mean, how much have you game planned? How much have you schemed up in this time off? I don't know how many weeks they've had off. I'm guessing like 2.5, 3 weeks. But he's going to have to get real creative to offset, what they're lacking up front and what they're lacking with Gray. I thought Gray was a top 2. I want to say top 2, top 3 or 4 running back this year in the Big 12.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And not to have him, that's going to take away some of that punch from the OU offense. So I don't know what to expect, really. Levy's going to have to dial up some sweet stuff.
It's funny you say that, because right before you came in here, I was just saying that if I'm Levy, I'm using Sawchuck and some quick screen games to take advantage of an aggressive Florida State offensive line, get you thinking, so that way the next time you want to over pursue, you're like, oh, last time they did that, they hit us for a quick screen, 14 yards, coach yelled at us, we're not making that mistake again. Florida State had 34 sacks on the year. They're a top 15 defense. Norvell did a great job this year. And it's wild that what was it, last year, everybody wanted his job. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah, they did.
Ty, this is honestly the problem that we've talked about so much. Fan bases don't give coaches a long enough time at their programs. I mean, it almost sounded like after this season, Florida fans were starting to jump off the Billy Napier bandwagon. And I'm like, guys, it's been 1 season. And last season, they didn't turn over their roster. Exactly. They're doing what we're doing right now.
A year later.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they're up there in the recruiting right now, too. I mean, they got DJ Lagway that's coming in. I mean,
I've heard about some of the guys that Florida could be getting in this 24 class. And, I mean, like an Elijah Rushing and a Sammy Watkins, or that Sammy Watkins is the 5-star linebacker. With DJ Lagway?
Stacey Gage?
Yeah, Stacey Gage. I think Stacey Gage right now, I don't think he's made up his mind, but it's probably down between Florida and Ohio State from what I'm hearing.
So is that the player that was going back and forth? With,
I would take Oklahoma out of it. I'd take Oklahoma out of that race.
Okay.
I'd be focusing, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I'd be focusing your time on Caden Durham and Taylor Tatum.
Okay.
I think the guy you're thinking of is Hakeem Williams, committed to Florida State. Whenever Coach Prime called him, he said, ain't no Travis Hunter around here.
Okay. Ty, you got to make that a whole segment here, because we could talk about that one for
we'll PG. What we'll probably do is you and I will link up. We'll make a video about that, because that is a topic in and of itself, no doubt about it. Now, Austin, here's where I disagree with you. He says, why would Levy need to scheme up a soft FSU defense? Please, this is this is kind of the fallacy of what was, right? And what I mean when I say that is we've gotten so used to Florida State being such a lackluster team for so long that the preconceived notion this whole season is that Florida State is still a lackluster team. Austin, this Florida State team is a really, really, really solid team, man. Really, really solid. Top 15 defense in total defense. The quarterback they play. Now, stop me if this is a hot take. Offensively, a lot of your stats are going to be very similar to Baylor. Brandon and I were talking about this before we came in here. Quarterback yards, almost identical. Running back yards, almost identical. Wide receiver yards, almost identical. Tackles, interceptions, it's all almost identical. Florida State's just more efficient in everything they do than Baylor this year, which is a little bit scary when Travis isn't running the football like he did last year or the year before. You think about how effective he was with his legs last year and the year before. We're just not seeing that this year, but he still has the capabilities. So kind of some last thoughts on this. If I said right now, what is Oklahoma's path to victory? Brandon, I'll start with you and then just go down the line. What would be Oklahoma's path to victory in this game?
One thing that I will look at in this game is we have to establish the run game. And something that's going to be nice with the tackles being out, yes, we are missing Eric Gray, but Javonte Barnes to me is more one of those guys that can go right up the middle, can pound you and hurt you in the middle of this offensive or this defensive line. So I think that's going to be a big key. Also, too, keeping Dylan Gabriel off of the grass. Keep him upright in this game. And if we can get our receivers, because we have playmakers, and if I'm not mistaken, they play a lot of man coverage across the board. So it'll be interesting to see if their corners are going to be able to stop a Marvin Mims, be able to stop a Jalil Farouk, be able to stop a Drake Stoops, all of those things. I think that it's going to be a high-scoring game, honestly, in this one. The line right now is sitting at -9.5 in favor of Florida State. If I were a betting man, I'd take the under on that one, to be completely honest. I don't think Florida State's just going to completely mollywop us. I think we have enough talent, even though we've lost some guys, to be able to keep up. And it's going to come down to Big 12 versus ACC. It's going to show the strength of both conferences. I would argue to most people, and I don't think most people would argue back, the ACC is not really as good as the Big 12 this year. You guys might disagree with me.
ACC might be the weakest conference this year.
So I point that out and I bring that up. I like OU in this one. I like them to be able to establish the run game and to be able to try and kind of push them off. But it'll be interesting without our tackles. But I'm a Sooner fan, so I'm gonna be looking through those Sooner goggles that I got on. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard for me to say that Florida State's gonna beat us. I think this could be one of those games. If you remember back in the day, I believe it was Adrian Peterson's second year, the year we had Rhett Bomar at quarterback against Oregon. Oregon was the higher-ranked team. They had Dixon, all those other guys. Nobody was giving Oklahoma a chance in that game. Now, granted, that was before players actually opted out of bowl games and didn't play in them and everything else. But I look at this kind of the same way. OU could come in here and surprise some people. Would I bet on that for them to actually win outright? Probably not. But I think they're going to keep it within that 9.5-point spread.
Love it. Corey, before I let you go, I want to answer one question in chat. Matt asks, is the Pac-12 not the weakest this year? Matt, personally, I don't think so. Oregon,
no,
really good. UCLA, really good. Washington was really good. USC was the Pac. I mean, they were out there balling this year. Utah
they won the championship.
Balling.
Yep.
So the Pac, I have to give the Pac credit. They were a really fun conference this year.
The Pac-12 was pretty improved. I don't know if you said it, but Oregon State was even
Oregon State. Yeah, great point.
They were.
And I actually watched a lot of Pac-12 after dark this year because I've had a lot of issues sleeping this year. And Colorado, even though they're 1-11, and when you look at it, the scores, they were able to keep a lot of those games in the first half close. They didn't have the depth in those games to keep
right.
Going. Again, that tells you the Pac-12 is pretty good. If a 1-11 team can keep games close in the beginning, like in the first half of the games, that if they would have had a little bit more depth, that probably would not have been in a 1-11 team. Probably would have been a bowl team.
Right.
True. Now, kind of refocusing back here. Corey, what do the Sooners
Yo.
have to do to find victory against Florida State?
I'm more worried about them defensively because when they went on that 3-game skid, their defense just went to hell, man. So are they going to be able to stop Benson? Are they going to be able to stop Travis? Travis, give me if I'm not mistaken, he's a quarterback that can move, right?
He can really hurt you with his
yeah.
legs.
So
Yes.
so that's been OU's Achilles heel over the past few years, stopping mobile quarterbacks. So saw Martinez from K-State carve him up. Saw Duggan from TCU carve him up. Texas really didn't have a quarterback that can do that, but they were missing Gabriel. So I just look at everything that when OU struggles defense-wise, it's against a mobile quarterback. So I hope they did some tackling drills over the past 3 weeks. I think a recommitment to learning how to tackle, break down the space, and stop some of these quarterbacks that can run. So for me, for an OU fan like Brandon, how are you going to play on defense? You better tackle.
Yeah,
Amen.
100%.
Amen.
PG, same question.
Yeah, taking off the center goggles, I think Florida State's going to win, right? I think they give OU their first losing season since, what's it been, 1999?
Dude, I don't even know.
1998? It's been a while.
Stupid.
It was. It was
It's
a John
ridiculous.
Blake. It was a John Blake era because Stoops was the first year in '99.
Yeah,
It's absolutely ridiculous streak.
it's been a while. But I will say this. If Oklahoma can come out there and Dylan Gabriel has had the opportunity to really spend this time this past month to connect and just be with his wide receivers a little more, I think you're going to potentially see that chemistry be better. Because this is what a lot of people don't understand is this whole season has been Dylan Gabriel coming back from a season-ending injury. I'm trying to shake off the rust. You get hurt. So he really hasn't truly, I don't think, been able to shake off the rust, which has completely messed up the chemistry in that wide receiver room. So maybe having another month to be able to work with those wide receivers, maybe that helps. And, if they come out there and they're able to sling the ball, my God, this passing defense, they could put up probably 400 yards on 400 yards on the Florida State defense. And if that happens, then you're probably seeing Oklahoma with a pretty good shot to come out there and win this game because Javonte Barnes is that dude. And you're going to see a lot of probably Tawi Walker. I think Jaden Knowles is probably going to play in this game. And then you're going to see a little bit of Gavin Sawchuk. So I think the running game is fine. And I think people are going to realize that we're not going to miss too much of Eric Gray. Eric Gray was great, but we have some pretty good running backs in the back as well. So we'll just have to watch and wait and see. But those are really the keys for Oklahoma to go out there and win this game. You could overcome the defense being bad.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully. I think when I look at this, one thing that I think Oklahoma has got to do, Dylan Gabriel cannot be afraid to use his legs, especially with the pass rush Florida State is fielding. Once again, 34 sacks on the year, and you don't have the 2 tackles nor Eric Gray. When I go back to that Baylor game, during the early portions of that game, Oklahoma was really able to generate long extended drives, and a lot of that was over Dylan Gabriel's mobility. And I understand he had that real big hit against TCU, but I think that could be a key to softening up this Florida State defense, because to me, that's the name of the game. Softening up the defense, getting them into position where you can take advantage of the matchups, because I do agree with a point that all of y'all made. Whenever we look at the wide receivers for Oklahoma, we can't discount the talent they have. Marvin Mims is a dude, right? That guy should be going to the NFL this year because he's that talented, but the stats is the only thing holding him back, right? And we know how these scouts are. They're going to look for any reason they can to take a guy in the 5th round as opposed to the 3rd round. That's their job, right? So we know who he is. I've said this extensively. Farouk reminds me a lot of Deebo Samuel and how Deebo Samuel is utilized. I think y'all do something very similar with Farouk. Love it. But I think that's the first thing. We have got to get advantageous matchups on the outside, and I think a way to do that is softening up the defense with the quarterback run. Drew, no better time for you to come in here, my man. We are joined by Drew England, actual coach. So, Drew, from a coach's perspective, how does Oklahoma get a victory against Florida State?
You score more points than Florida State.
I love it.
Man, Drew, that's up right there.
John Madden version right there. I mean, we were talking about this last night. By the way, if you guys haven't seen the episode on Horns Down podcast with Chris and myself, Jay, and then Jeff, who's their Florida State's play-by-play guy. We kind of break down some of the game last night. It's a great episode, so go back and check that out. Help our man Chris over there at Horns Down Podcast. But we talked about some of the matchups and some of the things that's going to be really, really tough for OU in this game. I look at the running game for Florida State right out of the gate. Tough matchup. Big, strong, physical back. 6 foot, 215, big, strong guy. He's rushed for 1,000. Then they've got a 1-2 punch too with Wilson as well. So up front, they're a really good offensive line. We already know about the quarterback, Jordan Travis, multiple dual threat guy, can beat you with his arm, beat you with his legs. And I think for OU's defense, probably going to have to be the best gap sound we've been all year. And we've got to be disciplined. We can't run up the field, with blindfolds on, or we're gonna get run past. So I look at that, and then passing game wise, big matchup on the outside. They got a 6'7" receiver who's a giant that's going to create some matchup problems for us as a corner, whether he's Woody's got him or whether Davis has got him. So it's going to be a tall task for our defense, but are we up to the challenge? I think so. Some of these younger guys are going to get an opportunity to play and show what they can do for the future. But offensively, I like our matchup. I know we're not going to have Eric Gray, some of the guys up front, but we still got that nucleus of the passing game. And if we can keep Dylan Gabriel on his feet and him to be able to make some throws downfield, you still got Jalil Farouk, you still got Marvin Mims, Drake Stoops, some of these guys. So if we can keep the pocket clean for him, look for some good throws downfield. Javonte Barnes, no slouch there. He can get in and showcase his skills here. Tyree Walker, some of these guys you'll see, Gavin Sawchuk, another name. So we're going to have a balanced attack offensively. We're going to have to be able to get some long drives together, keep their offense on the sideline and just try to score points, score touchdowns, and not come away with field goals. So
one thing before I pass this off that's interesting that I think we need to keep in mind, if we look at Florida State, their passing yards allowed, they're number 2 in the nation.
Yeah, they're stingy.
They're allowing 5.87 yards.
And they don't give up very many chunk plays, big plays.
Not at all. This is what I meant earlier when I said there's kind of this fallacy of what was. Florida State has this preconceived notion that they're still the Florida State of the past few years. This is not your grandmother's Florida State. This is a complete team. Now, kind of flipping this, we're going to now talk about Florida State's path to victory. And for me, it's playing keep away, right? I think when we look at how the Florida State offense is built, play keep away. Travis is a mobile guy. You have a rushing attack that you can bleed out clock, play control, let your defense do what they do, and take advantage of some of the matchups you have. You don't have key guys sitting out. Oklahoma does. Unfortunately, I think when we look at some of the ways Oklahoma has been built or been beat this season, that's exactly the game plan Florida State will come in here with. Maybe that's an oversimplification of it, but that's exactly why now I want to hear from all of you. So what's your thoughts on the inverse of this? What's the biggest threat to Oklahoma in this game? What's Florida State's biggest path to victory? I'll just go straight down the line. Brandon, we'll start with you.
The run defense for Oklahoma, being able to be stout up front, to be able to get into our gap soundly, to be able to stop that run game. Because like you alluded to, Bijan Robinson had a field day against us. Yep. I can keep going down the line. Baylor literally – go ahead.
He said, please don't.
Oh, you know what I'm saying, though. Deuce Vaughn. The list just goes on and on and on. If you have a good run game, which Florida State does, that causes problems for Oklahoma. I like us a little bit better on the back end this season than I do the front end. Me personally, I'd like to see how our linebackers kind of play in this game, because that's going to be a big key as well. Losing Jalen Redmond, I'm not as worried about that, just because I'd be interested to see if they don't move a Reggie Grimes inside to kind of play. But I'm also excited about a Grayson Halton coming out there and playing, kind of getting some stripes earned for him as well. It's just, yeah. But I'm looking right now, though, and you guys might argue with me on this. Other than NC State and Clemson, who was really a good opponent that they played in the ACC? You know what I mean?
The ACC is a little lackluster.
You see what I'm saying? So
Sure.
can those numbers, we said that they're the number 2 pass defense. How many receivers did they have to go up against that were like a Marvin Mims, that were like a Jalil Farouk, even
So,
Drake Stoops,
they
all
did have
that
to
kind
go
of
up
stuff?
against LSU. They did have to go up against LSU.
That
which
was
they won
really
that
early
game
in the
by
year,
1
though,
point.
before we knew what LSU was.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Clemson 34-28.
Yeah, we
Okay.
said that, though.
Yeah.
They lost to
Right.
Wake as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Wake. I mean,
Wake's
the good
good.
receivers that they went up against, they've lost to.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a great
Right.
point.
That's a great point.
But
So-
you don't really know what you're going to get out of Oklahoma's passing game.
Which is also a fair point.
Yeah,
I
but
want to
here's
see
the same
Dylan
point, though.
Gabriel. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
No, I was going to say Florida scored 38 points on them. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
I feel good about our offense.
I
Good
do as
point.
well.
Good
I
point.
do as well. I really do too. Even without Eric Graham, without the tackles, I'm just. I want to see a Dylan Gabriel that we seen against Texas Tech. I want to see that Dylan Gabriel. You know what I mean? Where he was slanging that thing. I want to see a Dylan Gabriel in the first quarter against Oklahoma State. That's what I want to see. I want to see a guy that doesn't look hesitant to just let that thing rip. You know what I mean? Because I've seen a lot of hesitancy this season out of Dylan Gabriel. That's one of the things that I would default him on.
Yeah.
So
For me,
go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, I'm more concerned about our defense than I am our offense. I think our offense can get going, but defensively, I mean, we've given up, like you said, you alluded to, in the running game, everything like that. We've given up a lot of yards and a lot of points. So, I mean, I put this one on the defense. Can they go out and set the tone and create a good, situation for our offense during the game? So that's just my quick little tidbit. I just piggyback on you, Brandon. So
Absolutely.
PG, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can agree. The run game is in terms of our run defense, that's the biggest question mark. Because if you can shut down Florida State in the run game, I mean, you give yourself a pretty good chance here to hold Florida State down in some points. But we haven't seen OU really do that this year. And, I will say it. The edge has probably been the most disappointing thing about this team this year. I thought I thought the edge was going to be much better than what it has been. But to give you something different, it's I really want to know. I really want to see Dylan Gabriel come out in this game and kind of give his start into next season and kick it off with a bang, because we know Mims is coming back. We know Drake Stoops is coming back, right? We know Farouk's going to be here. You're going to have Jaden Gibson. You're going to have Nick Anderson, right? And I feel like we're going to start seeing a Jaden Gibson and a Nick Anderson in this game. We're going to start seeing some of those younger wide receivers come in. I want to see Dylan Gabriel go out there and throw for 400 yards, which I think is very possible.
great.
I want to see Marvin Mims not drop passes, which we've seen him do it before. It's possible.
the consistency factor for sure,
Yes,
PG. That's a great point.
So if they can come out there in the pass game, and even if they lose and Dylan Gabriel throws for 400 yards, I'll be okay with it, because I know we're going into next season with a good foundation.
Right.
Corey,
I like that.
your thoughts on the game? What is Oklahoma's biggest thing they have to stop, and what's Florida State's biggest path to victory?
No, look, I agree with just about everybody in this room. The biggest thing that they have to stop is the run game. I mean, I think that's the elephant in the room, if you will. And for Florida State is can you take advantage of the OU's defense, the chunk plays that OU's given up on the back end some of those games? Can they create schemes that'll free up their receivers? Because like you guys said, I don't know if they're not the best passing offense, but if you can attack the DBs from OU, then you can have some success. Is OU going to sell out to stop the run? Are they going to pack the box in? Are they going to leave space on the back end? And can you exploit that if you're Florida State? So I'll be looking for that.
And that's another thing too, is if they're able to create one-on-one matchups and mismatches. So let's be honest. I mean, that's a mismatch out there with the 6'7" receiver automatically. They're going to take advantage of that. They're putting that in the game plan. Let's just not be naive to say that they're just going to – if they can run it down our throats, certainly that makes it a lot easier for that one-on-one matchup.
True.
But they're going to take some shots with that one-on-one matchup and some stuff underneath. They were able to do that against some really good offenses. Clemson, they were able to hit some couple plays on him too. So they're gonna play a little cat and mouse. But certainly, if they can come out and establish the run, it's gonna be a long day for the Sooner defense.
My biggest concern for OU, my biggest path to victory, PG, it's the only area I think we may disagree slightly on the problems of Oklahoma's season. And I don't discount what you're saying that the edge was disappointing, but I think that the interior defensive line was a problem. And I think the biggest indication of that is when then you point to me saying, well, I don't think that the edge play was very good, nor do I think that the linebacker play was very good. Typically, that tells me that your front guys that are supposed to be soaking up blocks aren't doing that. They're getting whipped so that the second level guys are then getting whipped. I think your interior is a problem, and I've watched them get pushed around.
I'll give you this, Ty. When it comes to the interior defensive guys, they don't have the personnel.
No, but that's why.
And the thing is, when it comes to the edge and the linebackers, you have guys that are completely competent of running this BV's defense and being successful in it. I don't think that the interior D guys are, including Jalen Redmond, are fit for BV's defense. And
we agree 100% there.
Yeah. To be honest, too, that was one of the things that we were hanging our hat on coming into the season was we thought we were going to have Johnson, an interior lineman transferred over from Tulane. You had Isaiah Coe, you had some of those guys. And so you really felt good about that interior. And it's been probably the weakest point of our defense, if we're really being honest. And that was frustrating because not only in the run game, but you're not able to get a pass rush and creating disruption in the middle like BV and his defenses in the past at Clemson were accustomed to, because you don't have a Christian Wilkins. You don't have a Lawrence. You don't have a dude there in the middle that's creating havoc and problems in the middle. And that's a point that me and Ty and I think PG, you've been on a couple of the episodes that we have, that's a real point of need for us in the offseason, is to find that dude in the middle who can plug up not only the run game, but create some double teams and allow other guys to run free. So I agree with Ty. I think that's been our probably our weakest point just going through the season. And it was a point we thought it was going to be a strength.
Well, and I'll say this, like if Oklahoma would have put out a 4 or 5 man front all season long and just said, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like my goodness, this would have been a completely different defense, because
I agree.
At that point, Isaiah Coe, Jalen Redmond, those guys are going to succeed because that fits them better.
Well, and that's certainly something that we were talking about too. I believe at PG, we've talked about it too, is why didn't we make those adjustments like that? And that's certainly a valid
I was actually rewatching the Baylor game today, and Baylor had the ball within the goal line, and y'all were in a 3-3-5. And I was like, what is happening here?
I'm glad you brought that point up too, PG, because that's certainly something to scratch your head at for sure.
If I'm a defensive coordinator for OU this year, which I mean, I'm not a coach and I have no football experience, but I'm running probably majority of the season a 4-man front. I'm given probably 3 linebackers, and I'm doing 4 in the defensive backfield. That's what I'm doing. And you know what? If I'm going to do the 5-man front, I'm going to 2 linebackers, and I'm pulling one of those guys up as an edge. So you have 2 edge guys, one on each side. And I'm applying all the pressure.
You can have a Jack or a Cheetah there on the end that can give you that support. But again, we talked about the edge. It wasn't there either. So, I mean, you pick your poison, with what we've done. We just have to get better up front. I mean, on defense.
I would be very interested too, just a quick point to point out here. Now, granted, I love Deshaun White. He's been a soldier for us and everything. I think it's time for him to move on, though. I just do. I'm ready. I'm ready to see the next guy in line after him.
Let me text him and make sure he knows that.
We'll let Deshaun White go to your house.
He's a good buddy of mine, so I give him crap. But
no, he's
played a great job. He's played his 6 years. He's good. Yeah, he's done great for our program. So
he has.
It'll be another opportunity, like you said, for another guy to jump in there next.
And in fairness, there's not a more difficult position on that Oklahoma.
No, that's the hardest position to play in Venables' defense.
But I mean,
you want to know the crazy thing there is this? I think everybody's so excited to see Kanak and Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie next year. There's a very real possibility you're not going to see any of those guys in a starting position at the linebacker next year. You might get some guys in the transfer portal with what they already have, and we might not get to see those guys in a starting linebacker role.
With things that are potentially in the pipeline, you never know.
Yeah.
Who's your cheetah next year, PG?
McCullough.
Oh, it's definitely the McCullough guy.
Oh yeah.
See, everybody says that, and I work here in Norman at American Freight. I've done spaces with you before, Drew. I'm the House Divided podcast. So we've done spaces, everything else. But I'm one of those guys. I had Jaron Kanak actually come in my store. He is eyeing the cheetah position next season, I think he's the one, because I don't think that you take Deshaun McCullough. I think he's an edge. I see him at edge. You put him on the edge. You rush the quarterback with him.
Well, that's the thing, is that you can do that with that cheetah position, and as versatile and as much as he can run, that's what you wanted. That's what Isaiah Simmons did. And I'm not comparing him to Isaiah Simmons.
Okay.
But they have the same intangibles.
They do.
So when we look
They're
at
long,
the grading,
they have speed. They have that ability to play. And let's be honest, Jaron Kanak is not the athlete that Deshaun McCullough is. I'll say that right now. He's not.
We might disagree on that one, Drew. We'll just disagree.
Jaron is more of an inside linebacker. And that's why they have him at the depth chart as a Mike linebacker.
I do like Kanak at Mike for y'all just because of the mobility they have to have.
Player. That's fair.
You do need to stack mobility.
He'd be better than
he's versatile enough to where he can at times go out there and play that position, certainly.
Well, okay. Brandon, to your point, we even saw the staff this season. In obvious passing downs, they would choose to sub out Agwebu for Kanak because of his ability to be a sideline to sideline threat.
He can spy the running back or the quarterback out of the backfield. He certainly, he is more athletic than David Agwebu. I love David Agwebu, but he's just not that dude in the middle. And he's another one that you would think that is going to move on. He's a senior, obviously, but it gives another opportunity, and we'll see just how well they're going to use him in this bowl game. Jaron Kanak's going to get a lot of snaps, and that's what I'm excited to see, is a guy like that getting a lot of meaningful snaps, how well he's going to respond. So
speaking of excited, you want to know a game I'm excited for? Texas versus Washington. Guys, I've been saying this all year. Drew, you've heard me say it so many times. Michael Penix Jr. has been the gift that keeps on giving this season. Washington, the Pac-12, it's been my guilty pleasure. I said to Brandon before y'all got in here, whenever my fiance goes to bed, I sneak back out into the living room and put that Pac-12 action on because she doesn't need to know anything about that. Action, she doesn't need to know anything about that. But that, man, the Pac has been so fun.
Football, right?
Football is football. Michael Penix Jr. has been as entertaining as any football player in the country this year. Texas versus Washington. What are we thinking here? No Bijan, which is going to be weird.
Yeah, this is going to be. I really don't know, because you got some of the opt-outs for Texas and how hungry that Washington can be in this game. I mean, it's a toss-up. It's
a real toss-up.
Yeah.
Love Texas's running back, Brooks. I got to watch him when I did Dave Campbell's Texas high school football. I did an internship there. Whenever I was at the internship, he was at the state championship. That kid's electric, man. Mm-hmm. Ironically, his cousin is Dalton Brooks, the top 100 player committed to Texas A&M's class. Yeah. Their other cousin is Doug Brooks, who's a defensive lineman at a small college here in Texas. Very athletic family. Jonathan Brooks ran for some stupid amount of yards. But what are we thinking here? Brandon, I'll start with you. What do you see in this matchup? What are you really looking forward to here?
I'm looking forward to Washington absolutely killing Texas. I am. I really, really am. I do not like Texas whatsoever. I'm a Sooner fan, so it's always a hate for Texas. But putting that aside, though, I am interested to see, is Texas going to be able to get anything established without a Bijan Robinson? Although, is Johnson going to be playing in this game, though? Because if Johnson's playing in this game, he is a very – Roschon Johnson
Roschon is playing.
I don't think Roschon's playing either.
Because he declared too, I think.
Yeah.
That's going to be very interesting then. Are they going to be able
to I don't know that 100%, but I'm thinking.
I do remember him declaring. But yeah, I'm like you, Drew.
Declaring, but I don't know if he's going to be playing. So that's why I said I don't really know what Texas has as far as depth. And that's the reason why I think it's a big toss-up. So
no, he's not. Odd Future hit us with he's not. Thank you, Odd.
All right.
Okay.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. So
that's a big loss for Texas, because that was ultimately their run game got their passing game started.
Yep.
Ultimately, if you cannot run the ball, you cannot establish it, you become a one-dimensional football team. I'm not that big of a believer in Quinn Ewers to be able to go out there and slang it 40 to 50 times and win a football game for him.
I was going to say,
didn't see it.
Is Tiger King's going to be their run game? So I don't know. We'll see.
It's and then you got on the other side, you got Michael Penix Jr. I mean, that dude is an absolute
He's just
baller.
been a stud everywhere he's been. I mean, he jumped on the stage, and then now he's just fun to watch. That's one of the reasons I'm going to tune into that game, and hopefully Texas loses. That'd be a great,
And Rome Odunze playing in this game out there at wide receiver is definitely somebody to keep your eye on. Texas's defense has been improved this season. They've played pretty well this season, but I think that's a guy that can get going. He's the number one pass threat for Washington over there. I mean, man, I've got them OU goggles on, so of course I'm not going to say anything too good about Texas. But the only thing I ever said good about Texas was Bijan Robinson. He's not playing in this game, so that's
Robinson and Vince Young. So
that's a big disadvantage. I mean, I definitely will be tuning in to watch this game.
Now, if Tom Herman was coaching in this game, they'd have a chance because he only wins bowl games, I guess. So, hey, that's awesome. I saw that earlier.
Ed Reed.
I thought that's really cool. That'd be awesome to watch.
That's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah.
So much
Ed
fun.
Reed, man.
Yeah, so Drew, piggyback off of this, man. What are you watching for in this game? As a coach, when you look at this matchup, what is it that's really screaming out at you that you think that the people need to be really tuning into?
Well, it's similar to our game too. It's the young guys and the guys that will get their next opportunity. I think that it's a chance for them to put some good things on film for you to go into the offseason and get kind of teachable moments and everything like that. Is, hey, you're gonna get 20, 30 snaps in this game. Let's see what you can do, mentally, because it ramps up for you. You'll see guys either make more mistakes or make less mistakes because now they really have to not only go play, obviously on the field, but they have to remember their responsibilities. And sometimes when you get guys in the games and they're playing faster, their motor either speeds up or they get right with it, or you start seeing some of the mistakes that have kind of hindered them maybe not getting as much time this year. So it'll be interesting to see from both sides. Texas, especially they're really good young skill players, offensive line, stuff like that. You'll really get an opportunity to see how well they do. And then obviously with Washington, it's a good opportunity to go play against a good Texas team and put some things on film for some of their young guys as well. So I think it's seems to be the theme around the country with a lot of these opt-outs is these new guys and young players getting their opportunities to play in some meaningful snaps and pretty good opportunities throughout some of the bowl games.
Absolutely. Corey, what you thinking, man? When you look at this game?
I'm an OSU guy, bro. So I have the same hatred for Texas that y'all do. I'm totally looking for Penix Jr. to come out and stomp these dudes out. I think we're forgetting Washington. No. Washington was a 10-2 team this year. And we talked about the Pac-12 a little bit ago, right, about how strong the Pac-12 was. They had 5 legit teams in the top 25 in the CFB, man. And they were a 10-2 team. They finished second in the Pac-12 in the conference standings. Bro, I look, no Roshan, no Bijan. Those are some grown men. Those are some grown men, bro, and they're not there. Texas is going to struggle. They're going to struggle to find yards to the passing game because they were already struggling to do that before Bijan and Roshan were out. I'm definitely looking. Look, if I had to put a number on it, I'd like to see Washington win by at least 10 points, maybe more. It hurts me to say that because I'm such a Big 12 advocate, and I love the Big 12 and what we represent. But sometimes, people need to be brought down back to earth, and I think Texas needs to. I would love nothing than the Huskies to do it.
This is going to be the second best offense, third best offense Texas has faced all season, other than TCU and Alabama.
Well, so I don't know that I could put Alabama's offense above Washington's this season. Not in efficiency.
Well, I just
talent, sure.
Being a more consistent offense, I certainly would go with that. That's not a bad argument.
Yeah, I think Alabama's more talented. Don't get me wrong, but they weren't as consistent as Washington.
Oklahoma State put up 41 on them with 3 freshmen playing wide receiver and our quarterback not practicing in the whole week. and we
That's
put up
fair.
41 on that defense. So I mean,
And
there's
that Texas
there's meat
defense
on
was
the
all
bone
over
there.
the place all year, right? Like we saw them at times look like a really solid unit, and then at other times it was like chickens without their head. I don't know if y'all have
They
ever
held
seen
TCU to 17. I mean, remember the night
Exactly.
game? They held TCU
Exactly.
to 17 points. I don't know.
Have y'all ever seen that South Park episode? I don't know who here is a South Park fan, but there's a brilliant South Park episode where they're kind of describing the state of the economy, and it's the Margaritaville episode. And he goes to return the Margaritaville, and he keeps having to go up the economic chain until he gets to the people controlling the economy. And he figures out how all of the economic decisions for the country is being made. They have a giant like bingo board. They take a chicken, they cut its head off, and they throw the chicken on the bingo board, and wherever it stops running, that's the decision they make. So whether that's to increase federal spending or whatever, that's just kind of the joke, that it's a chicken without its head running the economy. That's sometimes Texas's defense this year, where it's just like some games I watch them and they're playing really sound defense. And you can see the Gary Patterson, the PK influence, and you're like, man, but it just hasn't been consistent. That being said, I do think their defense is turning it around. It's just how much. It's still a work in progress. Don't get me wrong. When
Hank,
I say their defense is turning it around, it's not
I think
here.
Hank said it best. I think Sark's at his win limit this year, so that might be it.
Oh, 8 games.
Yeah.
It's the offense. And I do agree more so with this, Odd. My biggest thing, I think we're going to exit this game very impressed with Jonathan Brooks, very intrigued about what he's going to be able to do. We have to remember Keelan Robinson is still there, transferred from Alabama to Texas, kind of a gadget guy. Really like him. Odd, you do make a great point here. Whenever he was saying he thinks the offense is a bigger issue than the defense, Quinn was 17 of 49 that day. You know, it's wild. He had like, I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. Whenever I look at this, here's a hot take. Michael Penix is the one name that never got any Heisman play. And I was always just sitting here like, what the hell are we watching? This dude right here. I'm not saying he needs to win it, but to not even be mentioned in
One
the
of the best quarterbacks
conversation
in the country.
Thank you. To not even be mentioned was asinine to me. The kid is having an unbelievable. How many yards has he thrown for? Has he hit 500 million yet? Last time I checked,
I
it
think
was
he
like
just
one
threw
away.
another 20
4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions.
Yeah.
Well, I
Nice.
mean, and so is every quarterback that's played at Western Kentucky too. So I mean, come on, like really, come on.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii quarterback. I think
4,000.
Tang is probably still throwing for yards too, and all that.
It was Bryce's Heisman season. I mean, he had a bit more yards than that, but just to show you how impressive that is, that was almost Bryce's Heisman season. That 4,300 yards. Let me look.
Yeah.
I got to see the stats. 2021. Yeah, Bryce threw for 4,800 yards last year while having one of the worst offensive lines in college football.
You got to throw for 4,800 yards to be Heisman. Come on, Ty. Come on.
Yeah, Faith, hit me up on Twitter. We'll get it situated. We'll get a date ironed out, and you can absolutely come on the show. I'd love to have you. So at the end of the day here, I think this is going to be a great game. I think this is going to be a surprising game. I don't know who I want to win this game because I said this earlier. I do have a soft spot for Texas, and I can't explain why. I'm not a Texas Longhorns fan. I have no affiliation to the University of Texas. Maybe it's just that I've seen them be bad for so long that it's like, okay, I'm ready for you to.
Now, I will say this as an OU fan, it's better when Texas is good for college football as a whole. And we thought we were going to get that a little bit this year with the Alabama game, everything like that. But yeah, I hate to say it, when there's been really good years of college football, Texas has been close to the top, and it's frustrating to see as a college football fan, but at the same time as an OU fan, I mean, you're here for it, but at the same time, it's like, hey, college football is really good when Texas is up there.
Well, we want them to be good with us too whenever we transition into the SEC, because we you know what I mean, just as much being an OU fan as well, you know what I mean, but we want them to be right there where we can be like, hey, look at us guys, SEC, we're here. Yeah. Don't sleep on us.
They're not just bringing the money. Right?
Y'all keep messing with me about Bill. Y'all, you see how the chat does me? Look at this. Bill O'Brien.
Hey, I just embrace it, man. It's an early Christmas or late Christmas present for you.
No, don't do this to me.
Come on.
Don't do
He's
this
staying.
to me.
He's staying.
No better way to transition into this. Alabama, Kansas State. Do you know how weird it is to be sitting here talking about Alabama in a bowl game? It feels odd. It feels really odd. This is one I'm very excited about. Guys, Kansas State's a very well-coached team. They're very disciplined, very well-coached. Here's my biggest issue in this game. As much as I think Kansas State is impressive, and Alabama is going to have a hell of a time trying to figure out how to slow down Deuce Vaughn, because that guy's a problem for everybody.
Yeah.
Kansas State ranks 84th in stopping the run, and they wouldn't have played anybody with a better rushing attack than Alabama. Alabama will be the best rushing attack they play. Jahmyr Gibbs is still there. Jace is still there. Roy Dell is still there. All those guys are there. Bryce isn't opting out. I don't know that you can be 84th against the run and really expect to get Bama off their mark, because we've seen Bama just say, oh, you're bad against the run. Guess what we're going to do all game long? We're going to shove it down your throat.
Yep.
I think Alabama is going to look to send a message this game. I think that Kansas State is unfortunately the beneficiary of that message. And I don't think it's going to be pretty. That's just my 2 cents on this. Brandon, I'll pass it to you.
You're wearing them Alabama goggles over there. That's what I see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, something that I want to point out in this game, Alabama, when they don't play in the college football playoff or they're not playing for a national title, how hungry are they really going to be in this game?
Thank you. They lose.
You know
what
what
happened
I'm
the last time
saying?
they played Michigan? The last time they didn't make the college football playoffs, they came out and play number 2. They threw an 84-yard touchdown over Michigan's head to Jerry Jeudy. Ran up that score 52-16.
What happened last time they played a Big 12 team in a bowl game, though, that didn't mean anything?
Oh, here we go.
I mean, but
I'll throw that out there, too. I'll throw that one at you.
That was
I mean,
2014.
I've seen them.
I get it.
As much as I would love to.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I had to give my little dig there.
Yeah, you got to when you're talking about Alabama, but
yeah, fair. No, fair.
It's not a terrible take, but at the same time, you know.
And guys, you want to know how hungry they are?
Yeah.
Will and Bryce didn't opt out.
That's what I was just about to say.
Those two guys right there are set to make more NFL money than a lot
you're
of
overlooking the most important part of this whole thing. Bill O'Brien is still going to be your offensive coordinator for this.
You're
game.
right. You're right.
And going into next year. And he set the tone for next year. That's going to be the biggest thing. Yeah, absolutely.
You're right.
I think he sets the tone and going right into next year, you know, with a good offense, new quarterback. I mean, we'll see what happens, you know.
The problem's been with Alabama this year, they have not had those elite playmakers on the outside at receiver like they have in years past.
That's fair.
You don't have a Jalen Waddle. You don't have a Jamison Williams. You don't have those kind of play. And the list can keep going on and on and on. You watch Sundays, you turn the tape on, they're all everywhere. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that's really hurt you guys. I mean, your leading receiver only has 623 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's definitely a cause for concern. Now, I'm with you on this one, Ty. I think you guys are going to beat Kansas State. You're favored by 6.5 points in this game. I think Kansas State will keep it close early in the first half, but I think Alabama's depth and strength and just being the overall better football team, they're going to pull away in the second half. As much as I would like to see a Big 12 team kind of go in there and give it to you guys, I just don't see that happening. But I will tell you one thing, though. Kansas State's not going to beat themselves. They don't create a lot of penalties. You know what I mean? They're going to make you earn it. I can promise you that. And they are not going to be scared of that Alabama across y'all's chest.
Here's something go against that argument. The reason why they've peaked, if you will, is they haven't been consistent themselves. You know, they've lost some games that they may have not had or should have not, but they have not been consistent themselves. You talk about Alabama being inconsistent. Kansas State is definitely on that same train. They have not been consistent, and it's the inconsistency bowl is what we could call this.
I also think that if they had Adrian Martinez, I think this would be different because his mobility could. Yep. But I think without Martinez,
I was going to allude to is the injuries and stuff like that. And Deuce Vaughn has had to kind of carry the load as opposed to when you have that 1-2 punch in the backfield, like we saw, you know, in Norman this year. How much of a threat that is when you have two guys to count for in the backfield. So for me, I think Alabama's going to line up. They're going to try to run the football, and if Kansas State can't stop it, it's going to be a long day for the Wildcats. So I think Alabama's going to win by 10 or more.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Because Kansas
book it.
State's because Kansas State has not had any major opt-outs in this game, and they don't plan on having any major
They don't have
opt-outs.
guys that are worth opting out.
Deuce Vaughn.
Oh yeah,
he's not a Will Anderson. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, okay.
No,
He can
I
opt
don't know
out.
about
but he'll be a
Deuce
fourth
Vaughn
or
could
third
go in the
round
first
pick.
3 rounds.
No, you're no.
No.
The
He's
way
not
they
going
don't
in the
value
first
I-
round.
Ryan.
That's insane.
I see a third or fourth round grade on
Yes,
him. if I
third
had
or
to
fourth
grade him.
round. Yes.
Yeah, right in
Oh,
that
are we
area.
saying
Size-
Deuce in the first? No, Deuce isn't
Yeah,
going.
Deuce is
No,
not
I
going
said
in the
Deuce
first
in the
No.
first 3 rounds.
Oh,
First
okay.
3 rounds.
Maybe.
No.
No. You're
Let
not
him
even
go out
giving
there-
it a
Hey,
chance.
let him
No
go out there and
chance.
light up Alabama,
with-
and he might get that grade.
He might.
No,
He might.
he's already
I
gotten
like
his
that
grade.
take. See,
That's why I'm saying
and-
that.
But I'm not going to sit here and say that Will Howard isn't a capable quarterback. He just won the Big 12 against a very talented TCU team. You see what I'm saying? He beat him. And I would argue that their passing game has looked a little better with Will Howard than what it did with Adrian Martinez.
I just think that
I'd
plays
make
into
that argument.
Alabama's
That plays
strength,
into
though.
Alabama's hand.
That
though.
does, but
Schematically speaking, like you're
Yeah.
playing into what they want to do.
this is going to be an interesting game to
is.
watch for sure. For sure.
I think Alabama's could dominate.
This is the comment right here. If we want to know how Kansas State's going, you attack their linebackers. Guys,
That's fair.
you want to know how everybody has attacked Alabama decently successfully? Isolate the linebackers, get them on one-on-one matchups. Georgia has killed us with the tight ends on linebackers. I mean, absolutely just destroyed us. And Deuce will. Look, we don't have a linebacker that can match up with Deuce. We don't. Maybe Georgia has one. I don't know if y'all can name me a linebacker in college football that you feel real comfortable going out there with Deuce Vaughn one-on-one. So
Nobody.
Deuce Vaughn is that guy. When I look at this, I think, guys, my biggest issue here is Bama's pissed. Like
They are.
that year where they played Oklahoma, I don't think Bama was pissed going into that game.
That's fair. That's a
They were
very fair
pissed for
point.
different reasons, but
I don't know
They're
how much
pissed.
being pissed,
Yeah.
how much being pissed carries you. You remember, like a couple years ago when Georgia was pissed that they didn't make the CFP and Kirby Smart was like nobody wants to play us, and they drew Texas in the Sugar Bowl, and Texas pretty much manhandled Georgia that
Sure.
whole game in the Sugar Bowl. They were pissed.
Sure, but I also
I-
think that the
was when
talent
they were back, right?
Yeah, but the talent disparity between those two teams is a lot less of a massive gap than the talent
a lot of
disparity
players.
between.
A lot of players left Georgia in 2018 going into that 2018 season because they played OU in the Rose Bowl the year before that. And that was a much, much different team than played in the college football playoff the year previous. So
Yeah, and
I would
I just
agree.
think that the talent level, like there's a greater disparity between like talent level of Texas because they're able to get in 5 stars and Georgia who were able to get in 5 stars than, I mean, I'll put it like this. I've broke this down before. You want to know what I think is one of the most loaded rooms in college football? Alabama's edge rusher room. They have Will
Yes.
Anderson, Chris Braswell, Jeremiah Alexander, Jahad Campbell, Keon Keeley, Quay Russaw. All of those guys are 5 stars. All of those guys were number 1 or number 2. That's 7.
And
That's
that's I will sit here and
Yes.
argue with you all day long.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
Texas's offensive line and Ohio State's wide receiver.
Texas
room.
doesn't have 7 5-stars on the offensive line.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they don't have 7 5-stars on the offensive line, but when you look at what an offensive line room typically composes of, yeah, they're pretty stacked.
Oh, Dallas Turner. Dallas
that's
Turner. Thank
a
you.
good point.
Dallas Turner. So it's 8. It's 8 5
Yeah,
stars.
Dallas Turner for sure.
So I hear you, but you
Look, I
got to
think-
at least
I
give me
think
5
Coach-
5 stars.
Oh yeah,
Coach brought up a good point.
Okay,
too,
so
me.
what
I mean,
about
this is
Ohio
the
State's
same-
quarterback room?
That's fair.
Because you're not going to stack 8 5-stars in the quarterback room, but having 2 5-stars and then,
Man,
a pretty high up there.
But even then,
almost-
I don't think, because PG, it's the number 1 or number 2 player in the nation. Will Anderson was this is how dumb Alabama's. They had Will Anderson, Chris Braswell, and Drew Sanders in the same class. The number 1, 2, and 3 edge rushers in the nation.
and you guys had to let Drew Sanders go because,
And look how that worked out. Dallas Turner's walking in there and just as a true freshman took his job.
Yep.
Hey PG,
Yep.
I want to ask you this: if Deuce Vaughn is a first-round pick or first to third-round pick, why do you only have 23 yards rushing against Iowa State?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know because I didn't watch that game.
Iowa
Just
State.
saying.
Iowa State was pretty stout on
67,
defense. So
67 yards against West Virginia. It's first round material to me, I think. Huh?
That's okay. Okay, I like that.
Look. They lost to Tulane early this year. Tulane wound up being a good team.
Exactly.
I see where you're going. You know what I mean? You shouldn't get shut down by Tulane. I don't care.
He got his grade back, and it was day 3.
The question is, does Deuce Vaughn come back for one more ride with Kansas State?
Does he have eligibility left? Because he took a COVID year.
Did he already take that?
I think he did, yeah.
This is the part that kills me.
I don't think it matters, though. I don't think if he comes back for another year that it goes any higher.
Yeah, he's not.
I know. I think, Corey, you made a – please, one more time. Say that one more time, Corey.
I don't think if he comes back that his draft grade goes any higher.
He's 21 years old, and
he's a running back.
Yeah,
we know what the NFL does with these guys. It's messed
chew
up.
Them up and spit them out. Yeah.
But they look for any reason to draft these guys in the 3rd or 4th round. They look for any reason. And if he comes back another year, you already know what they're going to say. Oh, look at the mileage he has. Yep. They're going to use that as a negative, no matter what he does.
That's
no
fair.
Matter. It
That's
sucks.
He could certainly turn into a Josh Jacobs or something. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the potential, but to
Darren
be a
Sproles.
first round
Darren Sproles.
Yep. Yeah. But Darren Sproles didn't make it in the NFL either.
He was more of a gadget guy in the NFL.
Yeah,
he was kind of
played some years.
I think the NFL has changed though for guys like Deuce Vaughn to be able to be successful.
Yeah. So
now, guys, another game that I think is flying under the radar, nobody's talking about. Oregon versus North Carolina. This right here to me is awesome.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because Bo Nix is coming back, so he's not opting out.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. That's tomorrow, right?
Oh, is it tomorrow or Thursday?
Oh,
the days are blending.
My days
together.
are. I'm a teacher, so we don't have to
tomorrow,
work.
I think it's tomorrow.
It's a good one though. I agree with you, Ty. That's gonna be a heck of a
7 p.m. 7 p.m. tomorrow on Fox.
That's going to be a great game.
Yeah,
that's going to be a great game. I think Oregon's going to win this one. I think they put a stamp on it, but Drake May. I mean, anytime he's playing,
I was going to say that's probably the best matchup of quarterbacks in all the bowls.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Now I have a hot take here. I have a hot take for the Orange Bowl, and I want to hear anybody disprove me.
Ooh, here we go.
You know what? I'll put money on it.
Ooh, turn up the heat.
In the Orange Bowl, Tennessee and Clemson will play. The orange team will win the Orange Bowl.
I knew he was coming with it. That was my pick. Hey, that you can't take my Big 12 pick. The purple team will win. You can't.
Kai, I'm not gonna lie. We need to do a stream for the whole 4th quarter of that Clemson Tennessee game, so that we can be streaming right after the game for those couple hours looming after the Clemson game. Let's just be streaming for that. Let's just be streaming.
I'm 100%. I'm down. Let's line it up. Let's do it.
You're probably not going to get the news you want right after the game. So
maybe not, but I can be hopeful. I can be hopeful.
It's probably going to be the day after or the day after that.
Yeah, frightening. We talked about it. I think everybody on the panel.
I like it.
Yeah, I think everybody on the panel.
I love it.
National Signing Day 2.0 for Oklahoma.
2.0. Yeah. I think everybody picked Washington. I think we're going to exit the game very impressed with Jonathan Brooks. I think that Jonathan Brooks is going to have a coming out party. I think that Texas will probably play well, but I think you say it right here. Your weaknesses, in my opinion, play into their strength. And Penix Jr. has just been fantastic. Now, we couldn't get out of here without talking about the big topic, especially now, college football playoff.
Oh,
is that still a thing?
It still is a thing. Still is a thing. So,
y'all, I have some thoughts on this one because I actually sat in bed last night and thought about doing a video on this. Okay. So, everybody, we're talking about how people opt out of playoffs, and we got the transfer portal, and the transfer portal is not going anywhere; it's here to stay. What would these bowl games look like if, and the college football playoffs specifically, if we had this early transfer portal entrance, and because teams obviously have people to opt out and they're downsized, you take people out of the transfer portal and they can play in the bowl game for your team. Because all of a sudden this makes those bowl games a lot more interesting because all of these teams that maybe didn't have as good of a quarterback, they can go out there and get a better quarterback for the bowl game and start their future there. And they give their fan base something to be excited about. Maybe fan bases actually show up to the freaking Weed Whacker Bowl or the Bad Boy Mower Bowl or whatever it is tomorrow.
Bad Boy Mowers, I like that one.
It's like something like Bad Boy Mower Bowl or something like that.
It's actually
No,
one.
like I think that would be interesting, and especially like in a 12-team playoff format, like I do think you're going to have some players opt out because they're going to be like, oh well, my team probably ain't got a shot, even though we're in it, we ain't got a shot. Well, I would like to see, hey, if you take a couple transfer portal additions, yeah, like they might not be 100% up to speed, but shoot, we just watched Baker Mayfield show up in 2 days to the Los Angeles Rams, play a pro team, and win the game. So you're telling me you can't get a college guy in there a couple weeks before and at least bring him up to speed a little bit and be able to put him in there and him make at least some impact? Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. But in terms of the college football playoffs, 12 teams, I'm so ready for it. I wish it could happen next year because it's going to give teams like, a Florida who's turning their program back around, a Florida State or a Colorado and teams like that. It would have been fun to watch USC in the playoffs. I know OU fans don't like to hear that. It would have been fun to watch USC in the playoffs this year in a 12-team format. It just
they could have made it.
Yeah, it would have made it.
They controlled their own destiny.
It would have been fun.
OU was just on the outside of that 12 teams. So
weren't they?
We were the best 6-loss team in the country.
Oh yeah.
But no, so that's my thoughts on it. I think transfer portal guys, if they get in by a certain date to the team, they should be able to play in the bowl game because teams are down in depth anyways, and they need that depth. And I think it would make these bowl games and the college football playoffs a lot more interesting.
Frightening has my same take when you said you'd like to see USC in. They controlled their own destiny. They went out and played the game, and they lost.
Yeah, if they would have won 2 games against one team, they could have.
That's all they had to do.
Hey, I'll get a chance to see USC up close and personal. So it'll be fun to watch.
I think that's a cool point, though, about allowing players that transfer to play, because I think there's going to be a lot of guys. I think the overwhelming majority of guys aren't going to be able to come in within a week and pick it up. But there will be people who could pick it up just enough to make an impact. And at that point, I mean, everything else is changing. I think that's interesting.
And quite honestly, I guarantee you that's probably a conversation that's being had.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Not at all.
Yep.
Not at all. So,
and yes, Sooner fans, I am going to watch USC play in the Cotton Bowl. So don't crucify me. Thank you.
Nah, I don't.
I got friends that, so.
No, stop by.
Free tickets, can't beat it. So
I will say, watching USC lose to Utah was probably one of the biggest enjoyments of the year after they talked all that mess about how they were going to come back and beat Utah because they had only lost by 1 point and then just got curb stomped.
Can we talk about the fingernails? Fingernails, Caleb Williams?
You better not do that again. You better not do that.
Well,
can we do that?
This is the thing I love, man. This is the thing about football that's so great. And I brought this up the other day. You want to know one of my favorite seasons in the NFL ever? Is the year where Cam Newton won MVP. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if y'all remember, there were guys complaining to the media that Cam Newton's dancing was disrespectful. Defensive guys that didn't like Cam dancing. I have a very easy opinion for you. Do you want to know the one game Cam didn't dance? The Super Bowl. You want to know why he didn't dance? Because the other team had an ability to stop him. If you don't want him dancing, God gave you nothing but green grass and opportunity from stop him from dancing. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're a bunch of grown men out here. Do it.
Hey, I got another hot take. The Ticketmaster Birmingham Bowl right now between Coastal Carolina and East Carolina. The team with Carolina in their name will win.
Ooh, I don't know about that, man.
I hope
that's
it's
a stretch.
my Chanticleer. So
that's a
Can you say
stretch.
the name of the bowl again?
I went to school there, so I'm rooting for.
Did you really go to Coastal Carolina?
I did.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's cool.
That's like
That's where I met a
right?
guy that you guys might know named Dustin Johnson.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Where's that quarterback going from Coastal Carolina? Not to get off topic, just wondering.
I think he'll end up at Auburn, but we'll see.
I'm starting to hear that Spencer Sanders might end up at Auburn. Actually,
well, if they want to win, he doesn't end up at Auburn. So.
Here's a hot take: if Dylan Gabriel doesn't come back, you know, if Dylan Gabriel doesn't come back,
I would welcome him with open arms.
I would as well. I would as well.
He is dynamic. I love
frightening.
Grayson McCall.
Yes.
I'd have gave it the old college try, but let's be honest. We both know I'm not trying. I'm not tackling Cam Newton. I'll dive at his feet just to make it look like.
Especially when he was at Auburn that year.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. But the point being,
Dynamic.
in the game of football, it's like I hated Caleb painting his nails because, buddy, just beat him.
Well, I don't think you should have painted your nails with the words that he used.
Well, that's my point here, right?
It'd have been one thing if it said beat Utah or something like that.
Utah got the last say. So.
Oh, if he would have had beat Utah, I wouldn't have said anything because I know his mom has doesn't his mom have a successful nail business and it was almost like an ad. So that's all good, man. All good. You want to do some stuff like that? That's all good.
Yeah.
But for it to say what it said, you damn sure better win.
Yeah.
It's the same reason I said about Lincoln Riley. I don't know if y'all said, I kind of got at Lincoln Riley a little bit after early signing day. How in the hell are you going to say you need to leave Oklahoma so you can go recruit? You go to LA in paradise at USC and you don't land a better recruiting class than Oklahoma.
Oh, and I put it in the group chat. How do you take what did he take? 19 or 20 guys?
He took 3 5-stars and they were all from December 2021.
Typical recruiting classes at Oklahoma, 16, 17 guys.
Another thing to point out, too, if you go look on 247 where guys got offered, a lot of Oklahoma's class that committed to them had a USC offer as well.
Yep.
Just saying.
Hey, but I just want to point this out. Lincoln Riley said he couldn't recruit elite defensive talent to Oklahoma. And then in Brent Venables' first year, 2 5-stars. One on the line.
Well, he got some last year, too, so you could technically say this is his second top 10 recruiting class.
Yep.
Well, no, I'm talking about 5-star defensive players. Well, and I know he had Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy in his class, but let's be honest, I don't know if OU still held on to Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy.
I don't know what that other staff you hang on to. I completely agree with you, PG. I don't think there's because one, we know what A&M is doing. Like
well, and OU has had 5-star defensive guys before under Lincoln Riley, and then they end up decommitting at the last minute and going somewhere else. So I can't say that he would have been able to hold on to Dindy. It would have been nice, but I don't think he would have. I don't think he could have.
Lincoln used to just put his eggs all into one basket.
It wasn't Lincoln that recruited those guys. Let's be honest. It was Jamar Kane.
That's very good point. Very good point.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised Dindy
because you see what he's doing at LSU now.
Yeah, I'm surprised Dindy didn't end up.
Yeah, well, you see what the kind of talent that Jamar Kane is getting down at LSU.
Oh, yeah.
Here's one thing I'll
say.
And
I hated losing him out of anybody.
Who did we bring in instead of him? I'm sorry.
Chavez.
Miguel Chavis.
Yeah, for edge. No, we'll he's great at establishing relationships, but he's young. And look, as much as I think that he has an upside, I'm not going to sit here and say losing Kane for someone who's a first-year on-field coach.
Yeah, he's built great relationships. Absolutely.
But Jamar Kane is Jamar Kane. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a 1-for-1. That's facetious. I do want to I want to point back or push back a little bit here, Jimmy, because I hear you, but I don't care if a grown man paints his fingernails. That's no business of mine. It doesn't hurt my ability to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if you want to paint your fingernails, go do it. My thing is if you paint your fingernails with F Utah, you damn sure better go beat Utah.
Win. Yeah, you better win.
And I'm a baseball guy. There's plenty of catchers out there that paint their fingernails. So, you know,
they do.
It's the purpose in which you do it.
So let's focus in here. College football playoffs. Let's start Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, TCU. What are we seeing here? Are we thinking this is going to be straight down the line? What are we thinking here? PG, I'll start with you.
Yeah, Ohio State, Georgia, this is a mismatch. And I don't know. Do we know if Travion Henderson's going to be able to play in that Georgia game?
He's not playing. He's opted out.
That's going to suck. But I listen, with what Ohio State's got at wide receiver, I know they got Jackson Smith and Jigba out for that because he's decided to opt out. But, man, that team I think is still good enough because if you guys go back and you watch Georgia, they actually struggled this year against high-powered offenses. And, I mean, that you wouldn't expect to be, the best. I mean, now don't get me wrong. Kent State, they have been right up there in some of the best offenses for years now. But Missouri, really? Like that was your closest game of the season, Missouri. I just don't see them blowing out Ohio State like some of the people think they are. And I think there's a real shot that I would say it's probably 60-40 right now, Georgia, but Ohio State could go in there and get up big against Georgia. And I think it's going to be, how do those guys on the defensive side for Georgia fight that adversity of being down?
Well, that's not a bad point, but I would use the flip side of that. And Georgia's going to come out with the same formula that Michigan had in the second half of that game. And they're just going to try to line up and run the football and see if Ohio State can stop them and keep that offense on the sideline. So can Ohio State slow them down?
But the thing is, Ohio State's had a whole month to go back there and fix that now.
Yeah, but they still haven't fixed. Can they fix what Michigan did to them in the fourth quarter?
And some things you can't fix.
No. And I don't think they have up front what it takes against Georgia. And the recipe that you said, yes, that's a great recipe. But what if your offense is not getting the time of possession and they're sitting on the sideline? So that's going to be the interesting point. I put it on Ohio State's defense in this game. And can they slow down Georgia's running attack? Because nobody has had the formula yet.
And I think the big thing here, though, is with Ohio State and Georgia, you're not going to see Ohio State dare Georgia to throw the ball like they did Michigan, because they know Stetson Bennett can go out there and throw the ball. They're not going to do what they did with Michigan and go, yeah, we're going to take a shot and hope that J.J. McCarthy can't throw the ball.
But something else, too, that they don't look good in is the match with anybody, though, the matchups with the tight ends. Who's going to cover those guys?
That's the biggest mismatch in college football.
And
I would say,
nobody can cover Brock Bowers in the entire college football.
Well, I mean, yes, nobody can cover them, but I think Ohio State has a pretty good linebacker core in Tommy Eichenberg and Still Chambers that can at least prevent them from breaking out.
What happens when Georgia is gashing them run after run, and then they sneak a play action in there with one of those guys? That's what they've been good at this year. And it's been hard to
stop. Just got to hope that Jack Sawyer and that Tuia Maioloa, I hope they said that right, Tuia Maioloa guy can really help.
But that's going to be the key is can they keep Georgia's balanced attack one-dimensional? And I don't think they can.
Here's where I agree. And I said this to Brandon before we got started. One of my hot takes in this is that, and Corey, I'm actually very interested in hearing from you on this as well. You played the game, so I'm really interested in hearing your opinion on this. Michigan handled Ohio State. We all saw that. I think Ohio State is a better matchup for Georgia than Michigan is, because Michigan, the high-powered rushing attack, that's playing right into the teeth of Georgia's defense. The teams we've seen give Georgia some trouble are the guys that can spread it on the outside, soften up that interior. Whether Ohio State can do that for 4 quarters, I don't know. I just tend to think that that's the better matchup for Georgia as opposed to Michigan. Corey, do you think that's fair or unfair?
No, man, that's completely fair, because you can run the ball all day, but at some point, the defense, if they're worth anything, they're going to stop the run. You got to be able to spin it. You got to be able to throw the ball at some point in the game, right? And look, if we're talking about Ohio State, who was the number 2 ranked team all year? It was Ohio State Buckeyes, all right? So in one game, they go from 2 to 4, and it's really, if you're a Georgia fan, you got like, dang, well, we got to play the team that's been number 2 all freaking year, and we draw this team out. If you're Georgia, you much rather would have drawn TCU
or Michigan, in my opinion.
Anybody, but the number 2 team.
Yeah, but that was with Travion Henderson healthy all year.
Well, that's true, but I mean, it's Ohio State. They got other guys.
They still got Mayan Williams that's going to be playing in this game.
They got guys in that backfield that can play.
I mean, what big games other than Michigan has Ohio State played in?
None, other than the Penn State game at Penn State and Beaver Stadium.
And is Penn State really that good this year?
Little overrated.
All year. I've been saying that all year. They were number 2 all year. I never had bought into Ohio State, but I guess what your point is.
I think I agree with you guys.
Who's got the best quarterback? Who has the best receiving core? Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, there's other. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be a problem for Georgia.
Didn't he get his black stripe removed like within a week of being at Ohio State? I think I read a report that when he came in there, he came in with a bunch of those special wide receivers. He only had his black stripe on that helmet for a week in spring, and they ripped that off. If y'all aren't familiar, you go to Ohio State.
The big key, too, in this game is I don't think that Ohio State has seen a pass rush like Georgia's either.
Very good
point.
They
keep C.J. Stroud clean in the pocket?
Well, they damn sure haven't seen an interior guy like Jalen Carter. My God. Did y'all watch the LSU game?
Yeah, he's an animal.
Let
man.
me see if I can't find this, and I will actually play it. Play it on here. So, having said that, Corey, I want to start with you right here. I want your take on the TCU Michigan game. What do you think is going to happen in that one? Who do you see winning that game?
I like Michigan. I think it's going to be closer than because that's a bigger spread. I think it was 9.5. Was it not, Brandon? When we
7.5. 7.5 on that one.
I think it'll be a closer game than that. TCU has a knack for just sticking around the game and coming back. You don't do that many times that they've done it and not, getting that spot and not be able to respond. So, but the running back for Michigan, the quarterback, they're both mobile. I love the quarterback. He can get out and run at any time. They've been there before. They were there last year, right? And they faced Georgia. So to me, they're more equipped, they're more experienced. The moment won't be too big for them. They look more seasoned than TCU will be. So I take Michigan in that matchup.
Love it. Love it. Brandon, what you thinking?
I think that I'm kind of with Corey on that one. I think it's going to be a tough game, tough fought. I think talent-wise, Michigan's just got a little bit more dogs over there than what TCU does. Don't discount Max Duggan, though. Being a Heisman Trophy candidate, I mean, the guy is an absolute gamer. I thought, honestly, if I would have had a vote in the Heisman Trophy ceremony, I would have given it to Duggan over Caleb Williams, even though he did lose that Big 12 game. No, I get it, Drew. You're going to shake your head at that. That's fair.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I liked what Duggan did in that Big 12 title. Sure. I mean, that guy, you want to talk about a guy that's going to lay it on the line and give every single ounce of energy that he has. I don't think they're going to beat a Michigan, though. I just don't. I think Michigan's talent is going to outweigh them at the end of this game. I think Michigan is more poised because they have been in this situation before, and I think the lights are going to be just a little bit too bright for TCU. I mean, TCU just lost to Kansas State, and Kansas State ain't holding a candle to Michigan. They're just not. But it all comes down to matchups, everything else. I think TCU is going to play a good game. They got the running back in Miller that's going to make you – they're going to make you wonder what's going on in that backfield. And their receivers, they're going to give any secondary trouble. I mean, let's just be completely honest there. Quentin Johnson over there at receiver is an absolute dude. He's going to be playing on Sundays. So it'll be interesting, but I got Michigan winning this game and going on to the next round. So they're going to go up against Georgia and get their payback from last year.
And if I may intervene right here, this is what I'm talking about whenever we're talking. All right, look at this, guys. This is Jalen Carter.
He's a dude.
Peep this tackle right here. Watch him throw him straight out the club.
We can't see. I can't see it.
Yeah, I can't see it.
It says click to exit. There you go.
Yeah, you have to go back on it. Yeah.
Watch him throw this tackle straight out the club.
See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Oh, geez.
When I saw that, I turned the damn game off.
Oh,
wow. I was done.
Yep.
Guys, this cat is different. Like,
yeah, he is.
This cat is different. I'm trying to tell y'all, this dude right here, for someone to be able to generate that level of an interior rush, it's scary.
Yep.
It's
and
scary.
I think Michigan don't have one of those, like you were saying, and
I don't know that anybody
State
has one of them.
With Michigan, so good luck, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
So I'll kind of give my take on this. I agree. I love Michigan and I love TCU. I think both of them have had a really cool story this year. My biggest thing with Michigan, why I've been super intrigued by them, I didn't think Michigan would be here this season. I'm going to be very honest with you. I was low on Michigan coming into this year, and there's really one reason. Not talent. Their head coach publicly flirted with the NFL after their best season. Now, if you're in that room, Corey, I want to hear from you. You played the game. You just had your best year with the coach, your best season. You took down your rival that y'all haven't taken down since before you stepped on campus. I mean, it's been that deep. One of the greatest rivalry games in sports. Forget college football, in sports. You beat those guys and you make it to the college football playoffs. Regardless of what happened, you got waxed by Georgia. Everybody got waxed by Georgia at that point, right? That happens. How do you feel when that coach publicly flirts with the NFL and you're sitting there like, God, we just got over the hump and now you're trying to leave? Like it felt like there could be some sort of animosity, but that's not at all what we've seen. That team, Corey, talk to me about that because that's something that's really stuck out to me.
Yeah, when you get to that point in college, at least for me, man, like it's really not about the head coach anymore. You pick that college for you know the atmosphere. You start to gain camaraderie with your teammates, guys in the locker room. Hell, you see your strength coach more than anybody out of anybody on the coaching staff. You know what I mean? Like that's the coaches you see the most. Your strength coach, your teammates. You don't really see your head coach that much until the season starts or spring ball. And if your head coach ain't a position coach, you really don't talk to him that much anyway. So I'm thinking that he probably had the attitude if he wants to leave, then bump him. Go. We're good.
Now,
we know we have talent.
Corey, point out, though, when you actually played in college, though, because the guys are built a little bit different. They got a different mindset nowadays. I think a lot more guys do play for their coach nowadays than what they used to back in the day. I mean, look at Caleb Williams. He's a great example. Caleb Williams didn't come to Oklahoma for Oklahoma. Came to Oklahoma for Lincoln Riley.
Well, and I mean,
that's just one example.
A great example. Look at Colorado.
Exactly.
Yep. Coach Prime is messing up the game, not for the institution, because of the individual.
Well, you guys are talking about exposure now. Like I think with Caleb Williams,
true. Now we're going.
You coached 3 Heisman finalists. 2 of them go on to win the trophy.
No doubt.
One of them comes in second.
A little bit different of a nuance behind
Coach Moore, stuff like that. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like when I played, there was a transfer portal. I mean, I just had to be a really, really good lineman. Unless there was this O-line guru coach out there that I didn't know about, I just had to, put my boots on and go to work every day. But it's different when you're Coach Prime in Colorado because you're getting exposure. You know that NFL scouts are going to be at your university watching your games now, right? Same thing with Lincoln Riley and coaching the quarterback. So I just think it's a different feel. But I get what you're going with that. That's not a bad point.
Yeah, I've just been so interested in that because it was just so odd to me that out of all of the years he could have flirted with the NFL, it was the year where he finally got over the hump. And it felt like, okay, well, now you can breathe.
Yeah. Now but you have to remember, they had slashed his salary 2 years before that. He was on the outs because he had just lost to Ohio State like 3 or 4 times in a row. The COVID year happened. The COVID year kind of gave him a year of grace. And he was really on the way out.
I think that made it more perplexing for me.
They forced him to get rid of both his coordinators, half his staff. They told him you have to hire new people and you're taking a pay cut. And he did all that and he finally won. So there's some animosity there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's fair. I think that that made it probably even more confusing to me because it's just like, dude, you were absolutely about to be kicked out of here because the results just haven't been shown whenever you play good teams. And the year where you finally give the results, now you want to bail ship. That just that never clicked to me because it was like, for your point, they made him get rid of Dan Enos or not Dan Enos. God, why did I say Dan Enos? Dan Enos worked with the guy
That's
at Alabama.
Guy you want as the offensive coordinator at Alabama.
No.
Yeah.
God, he's now the offensive coordinator at Miami. Help me out here.
Oh, gosh. I know. I see his face. I forget who it is.
Chat, help me out here. Offensive coordinator at Miami. Why is this? He was the offensive coordinator you're referring to that they made him give the boot. Really interesting story. That's kind of, truth will tell you this, kind of an interesting story about how Xavier Worthy ended up at Texas, and he's involved with that. Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes things right there. That's an interesting one. I'll tell you all about that later. But that's a good insight because I would have thought that it would have been a bit more of a slap in the face to the players. But I mean, I think that you make a great point. At that point, you're probably so concerned about your position coaches, your strength and Gaddis. Thank you so much. Josh Gaddis. Thank you so much. Hank, thank you. Rap, thank you. Yep, that's who it is. So that's always just been something very interesting to me. If I'm picking a winner in TCU, Michigan, yep, Gaddis. I'm picking Michigan to beat TCU. I think TCU is the coolest story in college football, but I I don't know that we see it come to fruition. I think Michigan is they just have a more linear path to victory. I think that TCU stopped the run very effectively against Texas, but are you going to be able to replicate that against Michigan? And if they can, then they could pull this out. I have more confidence in Georgia beating Ohio State, though PG, I absolutely do agree with you about the schematic approach of Ohio State being a tougher matchup for Georgia. I absolutely do agree with every point you have there. I think the only area we may differ is the percentage. You said it was 60-40. You would give to Georgia. I would probably lean more
70-30.
towards 70-30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even a 75-25. But I do completely agree, because you and I have talked about this off camera, God knows how many times. So
okay, I want to pose this question.
Oh, I can't wait for my
Michigan, I think, is getting to the national championship. This is Jim Harbaugh's year.
Okay.
If Ohio State makes it to the national championship with Michigan, is this the greatest matchup we've seen in the national championship because of the rivalry
implications
between Michigan and Ohio State? Like,
certainly
we
in a
talk
long
about
time.
the game being that big. Can you imagine how wild these fans are going to be with each other for a week leading up to the
Yeah.
national championship?
Completely fair. Completely fair. That's one of the biggest. That's like Alabama and Auburn meeting up in the national
it would be worse.
Texas
It would be
and
worse.
Oklahoma meeting up in the
I don't
national
think anything
championship.
compares.
I
I don't
mean,
think
it's
the
huge.
greatest rivalry, almost in sports, I would say, is Michigan-Ohio State.
I like how you said
That's fair.
almost, because it's not.
Because
Ooh.
my gosh,
Mm.
they are so freaking petty. Like, Oklahoma and Texas fans, they can get along and live with each other. Michigan and Ohio State fans,
Really?
In what world? In what
y'all,
world?
no,
PG?
no. See, we can be cordial with Texas fans.
It's
during
not.
that
It's not
rivalry
as. It's not as.
After you do
Ohio
this
State
to
big as
them
you
all
think it
day,
is.
I
Cannot,
wouldn't be
like,
cordial with you. if I was
They
a
would
Texas
literally
person.
kill each other if they were in the same room during rivalry week.
Yeah.
I love the Xing out of the M's, even
So
at the
Duke
airport.
Let's just get this out of the way. Duke Carolina, greatest college rivalry or rivalry in sports basketball.
Honestly, yeah, that's
throw
tough.
that one out.
That's a
Yep. So that's a general hatred. But here's a question. You guys posed it earlier. You're talking about Michigan or TCU, it being too big for them, the moment being too big for them. Well, let me ask you, what was the biggest moment in bowl games recently for Michigan? When was the last time they won a bowl game? I'll give you a 2016 Citrus Bowl against Florida.
Oh, I don't think that the moment is too big for TCU.
Somebody said it earlier, and I just wanted to. Every time that Michigan has been in a big bowl game lately, they've crumbled.
And that's
for
fair.
me.
That's
It's
fair.
it's going to come down, and I'm not saying they're going to lose, but at the same time, you just can't overlook the fact that none of those guys have played in pressure cook moments yet in big bowl games.
Yeah,
No,
but
very fair.
TCU hasn't either.
Yeah, but I'm just using that as an argument for TCU. Everybody's saying that TCU is the underdog and all this other stuff. And yes, but TCU has nothing to lose because everybody thinks they're going to lose anyway. But TCU,
Last time-
that's the right thing. That with TCU coming into this game, that's all the fuel they need.
Last time that
fair.
happened, they played against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl and they beat them.
Yep.
And
I'm saying that
Wisconsin was highly
they are
favored, so-
fine with where they're at going into this game.
Right.
Hey,
And
so-
I'm saying it's going to be a little bit closer than what people think, but I think at the end of the day, I think Michigan has got enough horses up front and in the trenches. But that matchup with Johnson outside could be a problem for Michigan.
Could be a very big
secondary. I don't think it's as lopsided as people are going to give it. I think it's going to be a really close game. It could potentially come down to another Big 12 championship type of game. And I think that TCU is just crazy enough to go in there and spoil the party. Will they? I don't know, but it's very intriguing to me because a lot of people are just writing TCU off, which TCU would have it no other way. So it'll be a fun matchup.
It will
Yeah,
be.
That's fair. That's fair. I think for me, the Texas offensive line, though very good, is still young. That Michigan offensive line, they're some maulers, man. They are some maulers.
When I talked about Michigan making the college football playoffs, by the way, they were the only team I picked that actually ended up in the college football playoffs. And people thought it was crazy because they thought Ohio
Wait, you didn't
State
pick Georgia?
No, I picked Alabama over Georgia.
Oh, okay, fair. No, now when you give me that explanation, I could
Well,
see
at the
that. That's
beginning of
fair.
the year,
Yeah.
I picked Georgia and Ohio State in the national championship.
So
maybe.
When
fair.
I picked Michigan, that was one of the things that I really talked about was how their offensive line was going to be the reason why they won games this year.
Yeah,
It was.
they got some maulers up on that offensive line. And it's interesting because there have been some NFL teams even talking about like Michigan is doing some interesting things because they're almost doing the antithesis to what the rest of college football is doing. Everybody's spreading it out, and Michigan's like, okay, well, we're going to go do the opposite. Big bodies, we're going to stack the box, see if you can stop us. But that's college football. We always have these little ebbs and flows, right? Of how the game kind of equalizes to account for these shifts in
Frightening.
schematics.
It is 2016. It was the January 1st, 2016 Citrus Bowl, Michigan 41, Florida 7. So it was in 2016.
Good God, Florida.
2015 season.
So, Ty, I think there's a topic that we need to pivot to that I think
Absolutely.
is pretty important. And JD tweeted out a tweet that I think is interesting about this one. And it's Ed Reed taking that head coaching job.
Yeah, we saw it earlier.
To,
Bethany
You
Bethany
put it up on the
Cook.
screen, didn't you?
And he said, if my future son wants to play safety, I'm sending him to play for Ed Reed's program, which is pretty interesting because lately we've had a lot of hype with, cornerbacks and safeties looking at Deion Sanders and wanting to go play there because of what Deion Sanders did and being probably one of the best DBs we've ever seen.
All right.
Do you guys agree that if you guys had a son that played safety, you would send him to go play with Ed Reed, or would you send him to go play with Deion if you had the choice between those two?
You're going to think I'm crazy.
Depends on the program.
So wait, is my son offered by everywhere?
Yeah, depends on the offers.
There's
Because
only
Nick
one.
Saban was never the greatest defensive back all the time, and he wins championships. So
There's only one NFL. There's only one college team that actively has 70 guys on NFL rosters. Right, meow.
yeah,
Right, meow.
Hey,
That's where
no,
I'm sending
Ty,
my
you
son.
don't get a choice between Alabama and everybody else. You get a choice between Deion Sanders and Ed Reed.
Oh,
if that's the only two choices,
I'd probably go Coach Prime just because it's D1, Power
Me
5.
too. Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. Deion.
I'd send my son to play baseball. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll never
If
live
it's
that
up
down.
to
for
those
asking
two,
Colorado
yeah, that's
had a
easy.
baseball program.
That's an easy choice.
Deion.
Yeah, I'd go Coach
Yeah,
Prime.
but then again, it all depends on. I would be one of those that, I'm not going to push my kids to go wherever. But at the same time, if those are the only two options, yeah, I'm taking Colorado.
See, you're better than me. When I have a son, he's not even getting a say. He's getting dropped off at some random university. It's going to be a big, giant Jeopardy board. I'm going to spin it, and wherever it lands, we're loading up the car, and I'm kicking him out.
Harvard.
What a
yeah.
way! Hey, I'm not gonna lie. What a commitment that
What if
would
it lands
be.
on one of the Ivy League schools, Ty? Then you go respin.
Yeah.
Hey, so what a commitment that
Never
would
mind.
be. You put your top 12. You put your top 12 teams up on the board, and you spin a wheel to find out where you're going to college. What a way to make a commitment.
That would be fun. Honestly, that'd be pretty cool.
This is a very true statement. Good God, every American could say that every day. That's true. That's 100% true. Florida and Ohio. I'm starting to be convinced that Ohio isn't a real place, that it's just a figment of our imagination. It's just this corporeal space in which memes exist and are created.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield knows that all too familiar.
No, but I think that's very interesting, PG. No doubt about it. And look, to your point, we've already seen Coach Prime shake up the game, right? And so we need to watch what Ed Reed is able to do, because Ed Reed is synonymous with greatness. Personally, I think that's the greatest NFL safety that ever played. That's me. There's a lot of great ones, right?
Yeah, it's hard to argue.
I agree.
Sean
Definitely, that's a
Taylor
great one.
So I was just about to say Sean Taylor's career got
cut short.
It was a
tragically.
snapshot. He was on his way.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Palomalu is
That would have
fantastic.
been Palomalu's up there, but yeah, Ed Reed.
Ed Reed
You're
was a
talking.
dude.
Yeah, that's hard to beat.
He was a dude.
Duke. Wait.
No,
Spins again.
No,
Duke.
I will say this: I'll probably get more.
Danny
flack.
Dimes.
I'm a Duke basketball fan, so
See, okay,
Hey, I
someone
love
is
it. Love
someone
it.
is confirming Ohio isn't a real place. It's where they create the fake birds, and I don't know if y'all know, birds aren't real.
Yeah.
Birds are fake.
they create fake quarterbacks too.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
I don't know, Joe
We're over
Burrow.
here having fun.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm
Burrow.
talking. They knew who I'm talking. Corey. I gotta take that. You would not guess as a Sooner fan. Take a wild guess at my hot take.
Well, I'm not a Sooners fan, but I'll try to guess it.
I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan.
Why not?
Because I think he's overrated.
Hey,
I
but I
think-
just want you to know that overrated quarterback is going to succeed at okay. So I actually want to talk about this because I know this is college football, but this is interesting to me because we've talked about Lincoln Riley and his quarterbacks and how they do really well in college with him because of his scheme and his method.
Well, it's basically reading one.
And he
side
hasn't
of the
developed
field.
any.
But mind you, what's his face out there at LA pretty much does the same thing.
Yeah, that's no doubt about it. Yeah.
And
Good point.
there's a very good chance that Baker Mayfield has just earned himself a starting role and could find himself a home at LA and succeed because it's the same scheme as Lincoln Riley.
They're not going to start him
No,
at
it's not
LA
the same
just
scheme.
because Stafford got paid by them.
But Stafford might not. But Stafford might retire.
Stafford said he's coming back.
He's
already
coming
said
back.
He's coming back.
He's
Yeah.
coming back.
I
would
honestly,
take Matthew Stafford throwing left-handed over Baker Mayfield.
Yikes.
That's a hot take. No,
I
that's
would
a hot take.
take that.
Yikes.
That's a hot take. Yeah,
So,
that's a hot take.
blindfolded,
Yikes.
That's a hot take. No, so I am interested in the
running backwards.
So here's how we'll kind of start winding this down. I am interested in the evolution of Riley quarterbacks in the NFL because I've kind of had a theory, and I've told PG about it this season. Lincoln Riley does great things for the quarterbacks in college, but I don't think that he really prioritizes how to read a defense, right? It's mainly you're working with this side of the field. We're eliminating reads. We're generating easy completions, which is great. But whenever you get to the next level, it's almost a disservice to the guys, and they have to learn on the fly at the next level, right? That's why when people are like, oh, Kyler can't read a defense. No, it's not that he can't read a defense. It's just he didn't have a coach that sat him down and said, hey, read the whole field. Are they in cover 2? Are they in cover 3? What's happening here? Read it, play off of. Lincoln didn't ask him to do that. He asked him to read one side of the field.
That anyway. His dad taught him that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I can't blame these quarterbacks because I just don't think they're being asked to do this in college. And then they make it to the NFL and it's really tough to learn.
I love you, man,
I agree.
because you're 100% right.
Oh, thank God.
And
'cause I'm
nobody
usually
wants to
wrong.
hear that from me, especially Sooner fans.
Oh, well, I'm not
it's
a
knock
Sooner fan.
It's not a knock on the player. It's not.
No, it's
just
not.
the
It
way
can't be.
is.
It can't be a knock on the player because
And
they
people
absolutely have
they
the
overlook
ability to
that. They
do
were
it.
like, well, the talent. Yes, they've had talent, but look at the talent around them that they also had.
Yeah, it's
Do
not
we-
a knock on the player.
Do we consider Jalen Hurts an Alabama guy or an Oklahoma guy?
Ooh,
Both.
you don't want my answer on this.
Okay, give it to
Honestly,
me.
I think
Already
it's a 50-50.
Alabama.
I
He's
think
more of
it's
an
a
Alabama
50-50.
guy if you really want to get down to it.
But I
He
think it's
reps
50-50
Alabama.
because I don't think he would have been the pick that he was at without coming to Oklahoma.
Probably
agree
not.
with
And
that.
I can agree with that. I
So I
don't,
would
I don't
say-
push
but
that
also,
back at
I would
all.
say
too, Lincoln
Jalen
Riley
Hurts can play
again didn't have to
50-50, so-
develop him. If you had CD Lamb on the edge, you're going to do well too. If you had a really good offensive line and a good running game that takes pressure off of you, you're going to
Yeah,
do
but that's
well
the thing.
too. But at the same
Oklahoma
time,
made
look at what happened when he got up against a really good offense and had to read the whole field against LSU. They ate him alive. And
Yeah, but
They made him
Oklahoma made
one-dimensional.
Jalen Hurts though. They made Jalen Hurts,
Well, he was
I agree.
What he
SEC
is today.
freshman of
And
the
so-
year.
and so
So
I think
hold on.
he was already
Jalen
established
Hurts.
when he got
Jalen
yes.
Hurts was already a superstar. He was
Yep.
SEC
Yeah.
freshman of the year. So
But he wasn't throwing the ball like he was at Oklahoma though before he
You
got
want to know
there.
the you want to know the best throw of Jalen Hurts' college career?
Come on,
It's not in
Kyle.
an Oklahoma jersey. It's not
against
in
Georgia
Oklahoma.
in the SEC
Against Georgia
championship
in
game?
the SEC championship.
It
when
was
Tua
against
got
Ole
hurt.
Miss.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
It was
Yep,
against Ole Miss.
okay.
He dropped a so no, I agree with you. I do agree with you that Jalen wouldn't have been Jalen without the Oklahoma. So don't make me or don't confuse my point there with arguing against that point because you're 100% right. I do agree with you. He wouldn't be where he is now without working with a guy like Lincoln, who's so offensively gifted. But you want to know why I think it works for Jalen? Because he came from Bama, where they did teach him to read a defense.
Mhm.
So now
But
he
at the
came
same
to
time,
Oklahoma.
If you look at his freshman and sophomore seasons, freshman year, 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 1 interception. That was at Bama. So
Pretty good years.
what-
He played in
what-
2 national championship games.
Yep.
What was his stats at OU though?
Well, I'm not overlooking that, and I'm with Ty. I'm not going to completely say it, but he was already established, really good quarterback, and he fit into the scheme that Lincoln Riley was doing. So yeah, you're going to have more opportunities when you're going to throw the ball more. He had more attempts as well. So he had over 1,000 attempts his career and almost 350 attempts at Oklahoma.
He had more chances to throw the ball.
Yeah.
No, I'll give you that.
No,
But
I would agree that yes, he and it was great for his career. He chose that path. I'm not saying that he didn't, but he knew that it was chess, not checkers.
You want to know a great story about that too? You know, I forget where he was supposed to go. He was all set to go somewhere not OU.
Yeah, I figured where it was too.
Nick
Man, what was
Saban
it?
grabbed him and he was like, "Hey man, there's someone out there that you could go work with him and he could be great for you." I would apparently, if I might have this wrong, but apparently Saban made a call and was just like gauging interest because whether that was the case, I don't know, but Saban was basically like, "I think OU would be a great destination for you." And he kind of said, I would visit that. The only reason I say Jalen is Bama is because anytime you see him in the NFL right now, when you watch him at the workouts for Philadelphia, he takes his pads off. He's got the Alabama shirt. He's always
fair.
got Bama gear.
That's
He's
fair.
always rocking
That's
Bama
But
gear.
Jimmy,
That's
let me ask you
absolutely
a point. How many other guys that have gotten benched in a national championship as well? So I mean, I
Okay,
get your point, but at the same time, that's a one in a whatever chance.
And let's be very honest about who Tua was in college. Right,
Absolutely.
like Tua
He
was
was
a
a dude.
dude.
He
in
was a
college.
dude.
If you're
He
being
was a
honest, you
dude.
probably should have benched Baker Mayfield and started Kyler Murray the second half of the Rose Bowl.
Oh man, that's a hot.
He almost
take right
went to
there.
Maryland and Miami was his 2 choices.
That's it. It was Maryland. That's the one I knew. I didn't know about Miami.
That's where his
but
brother
Maryland.
is right now.
And
No, it's
Saban
Tua.
asked him who's
Tua,
got
yeah.
the best players on offense. He said Oklahoma, and I said that's where you need to go.
Yeah, Saban pushed
That was
him
the
to Oklahoma.
conversation.
That's a good one.
Hey,
That's a good
y'all,
one.
people need to realize Saban is as real as they come, whether you like him or not. Saban is
Yeah.
real.
Well, and also too,
He's
why
a
not
bird in
do
Ohio,
that
guys.
for a guy like Jalen Hurts, who could have easily just transferred out that next season after he got benched in that title game,
Well,
and he didn't. He stuck in
No
there.
doubt.
He waited for his turn. When his turn came up, he won you guys an SEC championship game.
Yep.
I mean, that was awesome. I mean, hats off to the guy. He's a class act. He still is.
Well, you remember whenever they had him come in and beat Georgia. I don't know if y'all remember the press conference. Saban was almost like tearing up talking about Jalen and like how much Jalen meant to him as a coach. An amazing story. Jalen Hurts is just such a great story. That's a great question though, because I feel like either fan base could rightfully have a claim, and that's to me though. It's just every time I see him walking around in college gear, it's always Alabama stuff.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's always Alabama
No,
stuff.
I would agree. I think he's Alabama.
Okay. That's
And
fair.
I'm certainly not. Hey, y'all, OU has enough quarterbacks in the NFL. Let me get a few of them quarterbacks.
That's fair.
in the
No,
NFL.
that's fair.
Hey.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
I mean, but you want to know
But
something
at
crazy?
the same time, though, when you go look at him and what he says before games, like when they're going through the lineup, he does say Oklahoma.
Does he really?
Well, it's because it was the last.
Or no, he
school
may
was
say his
at.
high school. I think he might say his high school.
But the thing is on a lot of those NFL ones, they usually say the last school that they were at. They don't say
know.
like the college.
Yeah,
I'm just trying
Tyreek
to make
Hill
Oklahoma
doesn't.
fans feel better.
Tyreek Hill doesn't even say Oklahoma State, which is
Well,
surprising. He
Yeah,
got kicked
well.
off the team, but you know what I'm saying.
That's why I was
Yeah,
saying I
literally
wasn't saying
kicked off
can you
the
blame
team.
him because it was Oklahoma
Right.
State. I was saying can you
Right.
blame him because of the
He got kicked off the
circumstances.
team for
That was-
kicking,
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
but
Well,
he's done well.
and that offense with him
I would have
and
taken
Jalen
Tyreek Hill.
Waddle.
Not gonna lie.
God's mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He and
I
Jalen
still-
Waddle.
I still don't know why we punted him the ball in that game.
please stop.
I'm sorry.
Please stop.
Had to ask.
Painful memories.
I hear
Caved a
you.
dude's chest in or whatever.
Yeah,
it's a class act.
Well, and he grew up in a coach's, house and everything
Yes,
like
yeah.
that. He understood the game from a young age. I mean, yeah. When you
All
talk
right.
about the great stories in that, Jalen Hurts definitely up there.
So one of the ways I want to end it, something a little different today, because we've been going 2 hours, so I think it's about that time. But one of the ways I'd like to end this is just kind of an off-the-cuff question. What's a moment in college football that kind of sticks out to you as funny, whether it's just funny in and of itself or it goes to prove how superhuman a player is? And I'll go first. It was a few years ago when Bama opened up against Wisconsin, and Derrick Henry ran it up the middle and absolutely trucked the Wisconsin linebacker, concussed the dude so bad that he got up and joined the Alabama huddle and was in the middle of the Bama huddle, like trying to figure out what was happening. And the Bama players like grabbed him and walked him a few feet away and just like set him there. And we're like, you need to go somewhere else. He tried to walk to Alabama's sideline, and then the coaches came and got him and were like, yeah, you need to leave the game, buddy. You are messed up. But that's trying to tackle Derrick Henry. That's where he gets you.
I've got one like that too.
I've got one.
Go ahead,
Brandon.
Mine would have to be, I mean, the game, we lost it as OU fans, but it was the Alabama-Oklahoma game back in 2018, whenever we spotted you guys 28 points. And if we didn't spot you those 28 points, because I would say from quarters 2, 3, and 4, Kyler Murray was absolutely destroying that Alabama defense and had Quentin Williams and guys like that just sitting on their knees. And I mean, man, that was one of the moments for me in college football to where I look back and I'm like, if Kyler could have had maybe a half a quarter left, I think he could have pulled that one out. So
that'd have been interesting. I'll never forget a moment from that game. It was when Oklahoma started coming back on Alabama. I'll never forget Saban was yelling, looked at Tua, and he just nodded. And Tua got up smiling, high-five Judy and Devontae Smith. They ran onto the field, and then 2 plays later, Tua threw a bomb touchdown. Yeah. But the previous 4 drives, they hadn't let Tua throw. And so that's when Saban came over there and said, you know what? No, take the head off the snake.
I think about that, and that's not mine, but you go into that game. That line that he threw to Charleston Rambo there in the middle of the end.
Yes, unbelievable throw. One of the best throws I've seen still.
But that's not mine. So I was just
incredible throw.
And Kyler looked a little shell-shocked early in that game. He didn't look like he was as ready for that moment, but then it kind of just clicked in, and it was like, okay, let's go, boys.
He's a cheat code.
It just didn't work. No, he is.
Kyler's a cheat code.
And he likes video games. Fitting.
Yeah. Absolute cheat code. PG, what's your moment?
Yeah. Ty, you're going to love this one. It's actually that Alabama versus USC game to start the season when USC came out of the locker room acting like they were something. And you know what? In the first quarter, they were up 3-0. But, that's when Alabama just brought the hammer.
52-6 to finish that game. Yeah, that's a good one. They were trying to pretend like they were being held back on the field and then just got waylaid. Another moment from that game, Reuben Foster. There was a toss play to the USC running back where they tossed it to the running back. The edge and the corner were both in perfect position to hit the running back, and it looked like Reuben Foster got shot out of a cannon, beat the corner and the edge to the running back, and sent him flying. Great game. Love that one. I do like that one a lot, PG. That's happy memories. Drew?
I just, every time I see that one pop up on social media, I can't help but
I was half expecting you to hit me with the kick 6.
That one was exciting, but it wasn't funny.
Drew, don't you dare.
If I'm talking about the most exciting, if I'm talking about the most exciting and one of the most incredible football plays I've ever seen, that was it. But it wasn't funny. Yeah. It wasn't funny. If you want to really get another funny one, it's when Texas lost to Texas A&M the last time before Texas A&M decided to leave the conference. That was funny because Texas was funny. A lot of that's
a good one.
Speaking of kick 6, no, I'm not going to talk about the kick 6.
Oh God,
that's not mine. That was good though. That was a good one.
Okay, I want to hear this. What was your opinion on that? Because I don't know what Nick Saban was thinking trying to kick that.
Hey, if it wasn't for that, they never would have got beat by Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. So
I have no idea, and it's crazy. I don't know if you look.
Amen.
They had subbed out, right? They had called a timeout. they had taken someone off the field, and I forget who it was, but it was a defensive back that we had on the field the way that Davis ended up running, and we'd taken him off the field, and I think it may have been Clinton Dix. And I'm not saying it would have mattered, but it, in my mind, it would have helped. But yeah, that's God, I hate the pick six or the kick six. I don't know. And it's worse every year. I know when the Iron Bowl comes, it's going to be played at least 100 times.
Of course.
Well,
you want a
that was one
drinking
of the
game?
most
Drink every
iconic
time you see
radio
it.
calls. That was one of the most iconic radio calls.
No
of all
doubt.
time.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Like when you talk iconic sports radio calls, that's going to be up there probably, I would say, in the top 10.
Yeah.
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 It was a great one. Drew, give it to me. What's yours?
2013, the vicious hit Jadeveon Clowney put on
Oh.
Michigan quarterback,
Yeah.
and he scooped the ball and recovered it.
Ooh.
After he
I don't
told
know
the
if you call
coach,
that funny, but I don't think
didn't he have a moment where he
I don't
told
think the running
coach,
back for Michigan was.
Yeah, didn't the coach want to take him out of that game?
He said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to get you the ball back."
Yep, that's exactly where I was going. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's exactly the coach. He tried to sub him out, and Jadeveon said, "No, I'm going to get you the ball back," and then popped him one hand. Unbelievable.
No, he said, "I'm going to get you the ball back right here on this play." Yeah. So thought it was really good.
Interesting note, gentlemen. Per some reports, it looks like Clinton Dix could be joining the Alabama staff in an analyst capacity, and I love that move if it's true. Corey, what's the moment for you that really stands out for college football?
Man, I got like a 2-tier one. It's it had to do with Bedlam in 02 and 03. 02 Bedlam. We all know what happened in 01 with the late touchdown to Rashawn. So coming into that game, Trent Smith was talking a whole bunch of trash saying little brother won't win twice. It's just always trash from OU players. And then they got beat again 38-28. I thought that was pretty funny because he didn't want to talk to the media after the game. And then 03, Les Miles, the let her rip comment. And I was like, look, that was my first Bedlam. And it was a miserable experience because we were pretty good that year. But looking back on it, if you ever go look at the clip, he's just let him rip. And then
he was confident.
It was just
I've talked to Sam,
you beat him 2 years in a row.
Mays. I've talked to Sam Mays a couple times about that, and he said going into that game we were fired up. Like we really thought we had a great week of practice. Like we were ready to go. And hey, what coach? You're not going to rip a coach, certainly for defending your team and being that fired up and ready to go. So I certainly get where he was coming from. I'm not gonna back down. Heck no. And Les Miles was not that guy, And so it was one of those things that, hey, y'all were ready to go and you felt like you had a good week of practice and everything like that. But it's just one of those things where, it's either going to help you or hurt you. And I never have ripped Les Miles for that because I as a coach, you're fully confident knowing maybe there's sometimes in the back of your mind that you're like, this one may not be good, but I'm never going to say that to my guys. And there's been times where, as a coach, I've preached the, hey, we're going to go in here, we're going to try to win this game. I'm confident, but in the back of my mind, I'm knowing like, man, they got some dudes over there on that side of the ball. So it's just one of those things. But as a coach, yeah, I don't ever knock another coach for being that confident and really, really fighting for his team. So that was funny though.
Yeah.
Boys, this has been so much fun. Before we get out of here, kind of what I do every time to end the stream, I want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of say their closing comments. One thing that, because tonight you're going to be thinking about something and you're going to be like, damn, I wish that comment I'd have said that. What's one thing you wish you would have said before you get out of here? And then secondly, let the people know where they can find all of your great content, where all it is. We're just going to go straight down the line. Brandon, PG, Drew, Corey. Brandon, kick it off.
Man, I can't think of anything that I didn't want to say or didn't want to talk about because we kind of touched on everything in today college football as far as all the bowl games, everything else. There's nothing really that I can think of that we missed on that as far as that goes. But to kind of let people know where to find us, my guy Corey over here, me and him, we are the House Divided podcast. You can find us on YouTube. We've only got 31 subscribers right now. So if you guys would, please hop over there, join our family. We'd love to have you guys on there. Come check us out and everything else. But hey, again, Ty, appreciate you for having us on, man. But I don't want to make this a one-time thing. I'd love to come
Absolutely
talk college
not.
football again. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Love that you came on. Love to see what other times we can get you on here, because this was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Be sure, guys, go over to House Divided. Give them some support. Great content, great Oklahoma content, great sport content. You don't want to miss any of it. PG, where can the people find your stuff?
Y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show, just all one word, Apple, Google, or Spotify. And then y'all can find me on Twitter, The PG Show _. I got some interviews lined up with some 2024 recruits. 2023 is pretty much coming to an end at this point. So you're going to start seeing me fixate a lot of my recruiting news on the 2024.
Yeah. And then he's got a great interview with Tim Brewster over there on that. If you haven't seen that, go check that one out. It's a great interview. He landed a great one. He's also got some other ones over there. But yeah, go check out the PG Show. Me, I'm Drew England. We are the Under Official Review podcast. Me and my buddy Zach Merrill, who's a Buckeye fan, talk all things college football, not just OU and Ohio State, but all across the board. Go find us on our YouTube channel. We only have like 32 subscribers too. We're a new channel, so go over there and hit us up. I'll put the link in this video as well. Hey, Ty is trying to get to 20K. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I don't know what the flip you're doing. Subscribe to this, give him a like, comment on this one. But yeah, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and all of our social medias as well.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. The road to 20K is a grind, an absolute grind, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Corey, man, where can the people find all your stuff?
Man, just like Brandon said earlier, my name is Corey Hilliard. We are the House Divided Podcast. So just search us, House Divided Podcast, on YouTube. We are on Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram, I believe, too. So, just like I said, just starting out. We're young at it. We've been doing it for 5 months, but we love it. It's an absolute joy to do a show with Brandon. And thank you, Ty, for having us on, man. This has been a blast. I didn't know what to expect coming on, but this has been awesome. So I'll be sure to start promoting you guys as well. Great talk. And I guess the one thing I didn't get to say was go Pokes. But always so I have to sneak that one in. But other than that, man, it's been a fun conversation. I loved it.
Yeah. One thing I will say, Matt, I'm not going to forget. I like Baker Mayfield, but yeah, I don't love the guy. So unpopular opinion.
You see how Matt does me? Look at this.
Yeah, he does me that way too.
Look at this.
So it's all good.
Matt.
I'm here for it, Matt. He's a good supporter of our show too.
Nah, Matt's awesome.
Matt's a good guy. Matt's a good guy.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Corey, Brandon, y'all will be back. Don't worry about that. And Corey, to your point, man, I told Brandon whenever I was talking to him, this is a real chill environment. I really want it to feel like we're a bunch of people sitting at a table. Dinner just got put in front of us, and we're not even worried about that because we're talking about all the games of college football. And that's why I try and be as interactive with the chat, all these different topics, because that's what it's supposed to feel like. We're just fans covering the game. That's awesome. The fun of it. So
awesome.
Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to go check out all these guys' awesome content. They are putting in a lot of work, and it's absolutely worth your time. They'll be back on the show. Don't miss it. We'll be back tomorrow talking about some recruiting. Frightening, you asked about KSU Bama. That'll probably come down the line tomorrow, as well as some Oklahoma content. So be on the lookout for that. And until then, we'll see you Friday, 5:30 for another stream. Until then, see you.
See you.